Hello, 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 my iPad's gone off. Hello. What's that all about? What's that all about? Hang on a minute. Thank you very much, iPad. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome one and all. It is Sunday, it is Warhammer Sunday. Oh, I've got my fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong today, nothing falls over or breaks or dies. Oh, if you were with me yesterday, a billion apologies. Yes, we had some technological difficulties yesterday with the Sidewinder Saturday stream. I think, I mean, I need to basically upgrade my PC, but I think it may still be related to Windows doing updates and stuff, so I don't know yet. I'm going to try another Sidewinder Saturday stream next weekend, or I might try one during the week just as a test, because, yeah, so I don't know yet. All I can say, if you were yesterday, I do apologise because it kept falling over. I will try and get back to doing video gaming streams. It seems this kind of stream is fine because this is a camera and the streaming software, and that's it. When I'm doing a video game stream, it's data streaming from the Xbox to the console to the Xbox app, and then from that's going to Streamlabs, and then the Streamlabs is sending that out, doing a screen capture, and then that's sending that out to YouTube and everything. Now, I thought at first it was just overloading my PC, but I'm only using about 50% CPU and GPU, so I think it might be a Windows update issue that just happens to be on a Saturday at 3:30 every Saturday, and I've tried to get around that before, so I'm going to do some more work on it. But anyway, stay tuned. I'm going to try a test one next weekend or during the week. If it works, we're back on with the video games, but I will eventually get my PC upgraded to a new one. If it doesn't work, then there's no more video gaming streams till I've upgraded my PC to a new one, so I'll keep you posted. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Sunday. It is time today for Warhammer Sunday. It's been a couple of weeks because I've been busy cracking on with George's Cesar Baby. Cesar Baby. I'll show. Hang on, wait there. Right there, I'll show you something. I'll wave something in front of the camera for you. Get the dust off it. Look. Oh, there you go. That's all you're getting. That's all you get. That's all you're getting. Yes, I've been working on George's Cesabe, Borderlands, Shanghai Dragon Cesabe. And I've just been crunching for the last couple of weekends to get it done, so that's why I haven't done any streams, but we're back now. I realised I need to get back to streaming for you guys, so we are back. It's Warhammer Sunday. If you've not seen one of these before, this is where I crack on with either my own personal Warhammer army, the Unending forces of the Holy Contrivance, a Principality of Xeon themed army, or, as has been the case for the last few months, I crack on with the Warhammer Conquest model building, getting all the models built and they're out of the way, and then later in the year I can actually start painting them all, doing video painting guides. But yeah, oh hello, somebody's approving comments before I can do it. Awesome. But yes, this week we're going to crack on again with the Warhammer Conquest. If you remember in the last episode, we're on issue 46, which is more Death Guard reinforcements, and I got a couple of dudes built. So today we're carrying on with the other two dudes and the fetid bloat drone that come in issue 46. So we've got two guys built. Now I have to tell you, I've mentioned this plastic before. Actually, I'll come to that in a minute. Before I do that, let me get all the blurb out of the way. First and foremost, shout out time. I have to give a massive, 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 massive shout out to all my patrons, my patron supporters who keep this channel going. I earn my income from Patreon and the little bit, a tiny bit I get from Amazon and YouTube. So I have to give a massive thanks to all my patrons that support me financially. You are all lovely, lovely, and I adore you. Thank you so much. If you want to become a patron, there is an address down there. It's patreon.com/modelmakingguru. I've also popped it in the chat for you, spam time. But a massive thanks to them. Also, don't forget this channel is supported by emodels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. Link in the description below the video. And they now sell Games Workshop stuff as well as everything for the traditional model maker with lots of discounted, reduced prices. And of course, we're also supported, or I'm also supported by Goblin Gaming, your one-stop shop for all your tabletop gaming needs. Link in the description below the video. You need to use that link down there though, and not just their normal web address, because if you use the link in the description below the video, that takes you to them, but it tells them that I sent you, and I get a little bit of income from that. I get a bit of an affiliate link income from that. So if you want to go to Goblin Games, save 20% off Games Workshop, Malifaux and Conflict 47, and massive savings on everything else, use the link in the description below the video, and it really helps me out. So that's all the shout outs anyway. Yeah, so if you've not seen one of these before, basically I'll crack on and do some work. Chris says you should read a list of your patrons. No, I'll be there for hours, trust me. Yes, I will sit here and try and do some work for the next 3 hours till 6 o'clock. And it's just more a chance, as always with my streams, for me just to waffle on and crack on and have me in the background, and you guys just hang out and chat and have a good time. That's all this is about, is you guys hanging out with each other in chat, meeting up with friends and having a good time. So do have a good time. As always, if you want to get my attention, I've got the chat here on the iPad. Stick your comments in big fat capital letters. I'll have a better chance to see it, or do at Model Making Guru, and I'll get a little orange box you can see there. Well, you can't see it really. I'll get a little orange thing with my name in it. Or if you want to, you can do a super chat, which is the little dollar symbol at the bottom of the chat window. That puts a big coloured box in the chat. It puts an animation and a sound up here, and I can't miss your comment. And it also helps support me a little bit financially, so that's also awesome. And last of all, of course, don't forget, we are doing the Stream Boss battle still. George Gabriel is your current Stream Boss. He's a little bit of health knocked off, you can see there. He's had that much health knocked off so far. If you don't know what Stream Boss is, basically one of you will always be the Stream Boss. The way to get what you have to do is you all have to come together to get his health to 0. Whoever gets his health to 0 becomes a Stream Boss, but wins a whole mess of cash. Because basically the way to take his health down is to put tips through the tip jar. And the address is down here. It's streamlabs.com/Model Making Guru. Every time you put a tip through, it takes some of his health off. The more you put through as a tip, the more of his health comes off. And if you get him to 0, all that tip money goes into the tip jar. You win all the money in the tip jar. I don't make any money off that. That's a community pot. You all help work, build it up, and that becomes the tip jar for everybody. And you win that budget to then spend at Games Workshop, Forge World, or Goblin Gaming. Now, it hasn't popped up on screen yet. It has now popped up on screen. Dad, of course, says Super Chat. Thank you very much, Dad. That's very, very kind of you. That's how Super Chat works. Thank you very much, Dad. I really appreciate that. So yeah, so get your tips going through. So I don't make any money off those tips. That goes into a pot that you guys raise for yourself. And the more you put in, the more of his health comes off. When George became Stream Boss, he won 488 quid to spend at Games Workshop. So he bought a whole mess of stuff. Basically, I tell you how much you've got and you tell me what you want to order, and I order it for you. Now, let's have a quick look at chat before we crack on. I missed the first bit of chat, really, but we have... first one I've got is Lynn Dipple saying, I'm off to work. Have fun, Fox and the gang. Thanks for popping in, Lynn. More Draka is in. Eric Graham, morning all. Welcome to both of you. James Lorimore, who's saying he's been playing Halo Reach for probably a month now and still have plenty of achievements to get. He's really enjoying it, but he says it doesn't seem to include Halo 1, 2, 3 and 4. It totally includes 1, 2, 3, 4 and Reach. That's what the Master Chief Collection is. I don't know why you've only got Halo Reach. There's like 5 games in there. You have to download all the others, but yeah, you might want to check that. It's all 5 games. We have Quanoman, Eric. I've done Eric Graham already. Ateris is in. Afternoon, Fox and all friends. How are we all? I'm fine, thank you. Mickle Pickle is in. David Sanderson. Welcome, David. Cynical Steve. We have Quanoman and Chris at Gross Models, and Dad, of course. Chris and Dad, 2 of your mods. They will look after you. They'll protect you from all evildoers. They'll make sure you're safe, and they'll keep the chat a nice, safe, squishy, fluffy, warm, and possibly ever so slightly moist, but pleasingly moist environment. Unless you cross them, in which case they'll rip your head off, snap you in half, and feed you to the rats. So, yeah, don't cross them. We have Ray Aquilina. Hello, everyone. Good evening, my friends. Welcome, Ray from Malta. Always nice to see you. Airy Styrene. 30 minutes, just enough time to make a sandwich. Ooh, yes, there's always time to make a sandwich. Welcome, Airy Styrene. New name. I think you've been in before, but I'm rubbish for names anyway. We have Hi, Fox, my friend, says Ray. Welcome, Ray. Nice to see you as always. You can't see it on camera, but my little Malta sticker, my little Malta patch that Ray sent me, is always on the side of my Hobby Zone boxes. By the way, on the off chance we do have some stream problems, for the love of dog, Chris or Dad, send me a text if the stream falls over, because I might not find out. The only way I knew my stream kept falling over yesterday is because the Xbox told me I was no longer streaming to the computer. Yeah, I don't know. Let's have a look. Cynical Steve asked about the music. It's not my music, it's just default YouTube free to use music. There's a conversation of made up music types. David Sanderson says no, Fox is well into Speed Garage and Doomcore, and I say no, I'm more into Blart and Spamcore with a hint of Power Flange. And then Andy McLeish says, and these are these 2 words will now become paint names for Citadel Paints when I do my silly paint names. He says Power Burke, Squeezemo, and Gunkwash. And Squeezemo sounds absolutely I love that word, Squeezemo. It just sounds perfect. So Power Burke and Squeezemo, they'll now become, I'll put them on my list and they'll be used for Citadel names later on. Power Burke and Squeezemo. It sounds like a Nintendo game, like Pushmo, Squeezemo. Who else do we have? Sergeant Bones is in. Where is Sergeant Bones? Now I have to say, by the way, although I have this button,
slap it on.
That's the only button. I don't have a skullfish button, so with me you have to get the typical skullfish. I don't know if he's in yet. I've not seen him that far forward in the chat, but just so you know, there's no skullfish button. Who else do we have? Ateris is in. Welcome, Ateris. Candy Grab for Mongo. Andy McLeish, of course, we know because I've just mentioned. Edward Leonard. Who have I got? David Sanderson, we've done. If I miss you, I have to apologise. We have. I think that Mark 3B's bench. All right, okay. Dad has obviously asked the bench and belly question. Chris Gross Model says signed Winder Saturday every Wednesday. Yes, just I don't know if Dad's asked it, but just in case, bench and belly, folks. What's on your bench? What you're working on, and what's in your belly? What are you having for your tea later, or what have you had for your dinner? It's just a way to get conversation going. People are already answering it. Wayne Hayward is in. Welcome, Wayne. German Day of the Word says Sergeant Bones. It's a Zweibeln. Zweibeln. That means twice. Twice? Does it mean twice? Zweibeln. Two something. Twice something. Right, so we're up to... I'll go through the bench and bellies very quickly because it's also what people are saying. Atera says, bench, I have a custom Zaku and a gunked GM drying at the side and a deep fried pizza for my belly because I'm a Scottish degenerate, but you don't say what's on the pizza. You know how it works, Ateris. We need the filthy details. And yeah, deep fried pizza, pretty filthy. Sergeant Bones is playing Ultima, just Ultima, not 2 or 3. James Lorimore says it does take a lot to stream a game. Yes, it does. I don't have like a Elgato capture card or stuff. It's literally I stream from the Xbox through the network to the Xbox app on the PC, and then I screen capture. I do a display capture of that to Streamlabs, and then I send that to YouTube because I haven't got a USB 3 port for Elgato. So, let's have a look. People are talking about the Sazabi. Mickle Pickle says, bench, I have an HD 00 and HD Gundam Zerakio. In my belly is just tea. I have my enormous tea as always. Is there a floaty in there? Oh no, there was a floaty in my tea then. Mordraka says, belly, satay chicken stir fry with rice and 3 sticks of garlic bread. Oh yes. Beach, 5 Blight Lord Terminators with all weapon options and 16 litres of blood. Yes. It's nice to see you back, Fox, says Gaz Vickers. Welcome, Gaz. Thank you very much.
Pika pika.
Something happened. David Sanderson put a little £3 tip in there. So, well, I say little, it's a big tip. They put a massive £3 tip in there. So thank you very much, David. That goes into the community pot. Takes a little bit of George's health off. George will be dethroned and he won't be happy about it. Thank you very much for that. That was yes, it was. There we go. Making sure it was David. Nothing on the bench, says Cynical Steve. Having a break after my kit bashed Machining Krieger Falke, and my belly will be fish and chips. Yes. But we were going to have Chinese takeout tonight. My plan for dinner tonight was big fat beef udon, big fat juicy udon beef with a wonton soup and some squishies or sumai to start. But Mama Foxy's feeling it got a bit of a cold and she's like, I'll just make some sandwiches later on. I'm like, oh, no Chinese for me then. Fudge. Everybody's saying Skullfish. Stewpot's in. Welcome, Stewpot. Stick your thumb up, Fox. There says Skullfish. Skullfish. Yes, I have to do it manually. Right, I'm going to whiz through the comments now because they just jumped. Oh, okay, fine. Because we'll be here all day. Dad says he's back to 100% health. Yes, well, Dad was poorly sick for a while, but he's back normal. James Lorimore, it's on PC and the collection hasn't released. Oh, right, you're on playing on PC, in which case, yes, it's just reached. Yes, on Xbox, it's like all of them. It's only just come out on PC, so. I forgot, of course, it's on PC. You can get Halo 1, you can get Halo 2 on PC. It's old now, the old Gearbox remaster version. Reworked version. Beyond Hope, welcome Beyond Hope, says... question for the masses, playing with Mordant Earth but it's black, can you mix it with other paints and get the same... What was that? Something just flew past my face. There's a flying creature in this room. It's February and I've got a flying beast in my room. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. Don't know if you saw it go just past on the camera, but there's definitely a flying creature in this room. When I was going to bed last night, you know, like when you get a mosquito in your room and you get that little sort of, you can hear it, and even if it's the most quietest thing in the world, when you're trying to get to bed at like 2 a.m, trying to get to sleep, and all you can hear is, and you have to go and then find it and throw it out or kill it or something or just deal with it because you can't get to sleep. Your brain can't ignore it. Well, I was going to bed last night, going to sleep, and I was sure I could faintly hear a mosquito sound, but I thought it's February. It's not going to be a mosquito. It's just the central heating or something. And I went to sleep eventually, but maybe it was. Maybe for some bizarre reason, there's a flying creature in this room. Yay, global warming. What was I reading? Yes, can you mix it with other paints? This is Modern Earth and get the same crackle effect. I want to create some ice bases with white under and blue crackle. I don't know if you can mix those with paints because they're not technically paints. They're specially configured to have the crackle effect. I don't know if mixing other paints in will change how it behaves. It might not. It's worth giving it a test on a base. But yeah, I mean, the only colours you've got, there's Modern Earth and there's Agrellan Earth, Modern Earth, which is black, and Agrellan Earth, which is brown. The only other thing I can think is apply it to the base and then paint the base or airbrush over the base. When you put it on there and it does the crackle effect, it's on there, but it's a little bit delicate, so you have to seal it with lots of varnishes. So you can brush over it and paint it, but it might peel some of the little flakes off. So what I might suggest is, for example, you wanted ice base with white underneath and blue crackle. Why not paint it with the Modern Earth, get the crackle effect, then go over it with the white airbrush. Airbrush over it with white or a light grey, and then build it up to white. And then use a blue colour in the cracks to get the depth of the crackle, but don't just get blue paint and thin it down. Use something like I can't think of the colour now. Let me. I've got drawers with lots of paints in now. Let me see if I can find it. Where's me blues? Hang on. Oh, I got the blues. You could try something like. See, I've got drawers of paints and all that. So paint the Modern Earth, let it crackle. Get spray over it, airbrush over it. Well, if you haven't got airbrush, then you can paint over it, but just go very, very carefully. Go very gently. If you're doing white painting, go with like some say Celestra grey first, and then go over with a white colour or a light grey colour. Don't just paint white because it'll take forever over Modern Earth. So do that, and then use something like I would suggest possibly Baharoff Blue. It's an edge paint, so it's a little thinner, but get some of this. What you do is you get some Lamian medium, or it doesn't have to be Lamian, it can be, Vallejo's glaze medium. Get yourself a glaze medium, not water, don't thin it with water. Get yourself some Lamian medium or glaze medium. A couple of brushfuls of that, and maybe one brushful of this. And you can then brush that into the gaps. Because you've used the medium, of course, it'll be like a glaze or a wash, and it'll go into the cracks. Now, it depends what kind of crackle you want. If you want a glowy, like bright crackle, this will give you a nice bright, as if there's like a glowing light source. Because what you can do is, basically, let me get. It's drawing time. It's drawing time. I like when I get all these questions that sends me off on an adventure. So I've got to find something. Right, so you've got your little crackle there. Let's say there's 2 flakes. There's some flakes there, and there's the bits in between. You get the paint. Excuse me. You run the paint over the cracks. So you get your brush, and you go blah blah blah. You go over the gap with this because it's mostly Lamian medium, like say 3:1. It's quite thin. It's quite diluted. 3:1. And it won't do much, but it'll look a little bluer. Keep doing it. Add 2 or 3 coats, and then, but each time, the first time, go over the edge of each little sort of flake. So you go like that. You go over the edge. You're catching the edge, but it collects in the groove. The second time, just do it in the groove. Third time, just in the groove. Fourth time, maybe a little bit that includes the edge of the flakes. And what you'll do is, as you build up more and more layers, of course, it becomes more and more opaque and looks more and more bright glowy blue. But if you've got, say, 5 layers on the inside of the gap, it'll be a nice bright glowy blue. If you've only got a couple of layers on the edge of the crack, it's more transparent and it'll look like you've got a bright blue interior with a bit of a glow around the edge of the patches. And that's how you get that kind of something underneath glowing. Whenever you see glowing runes on a Warhammer figure or something like that, I did them on the side of my Storm Wolf. It's something like that. Put it in as a glaze and built up, so where you've got lots and lots of layers, it's not transparent. Where you've only got one, where you want it to be a glow effect, you just do 1 or 2 layers, but it's got to be really diluted, like 3:1, 4:1, and build it up slowly. You can do other colours. You could try, if you didn't want something so bright, you could try Lothern blue, for example. You could use you could use other colours. Thousand Suns blue will give you that sort of colours. There's lots of different blue colours. But yeah, it's actually quite easy to do. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's not too hard to do. And that's basically just glazing. Hang on, I've got to try and get this drawer back in now. But that's how I did the runes on the side of my Stormwolf. There are other ways to do it, but that's how I did. Just using one colour. And because it's white underneath, because you painted it white first, it'll be a really bright, glowy blue colour. And of course, you can also use 1 or 2 layers of it over the flat surfaces of the flakes to build up a sort of blue tinge to them if you wanted to. It's more just building up more of an amount in the crack. There you go. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I don't know. I mean, it might be fine, but mixing the texture paints might affect how they settle. So, and it jumped. What's chat doing? I've lost place of chat now. There's a brush there. Don't know why that's there. Carolina's in. Welcome, Carolina. Skullfish says jumping spiders. You can talk about spiders all you want in my chat. I don't think Gemma watches my stream, so I think you'll be all right. Oh no, Gemma's in. Don't talk about spiders. No. Yep. In that case, don't. I've done it. Sorry, Gemma. I didn't see you. I'm going up the wrong way. I'm doing like Chris. I'm going at the bottom and working my way up, which I shouldn't do. Oh well, I'm dead now. And Chris will get in trouble now as well because I'm in trouble. So there you go. Right, let's catch up. So I think we're up to date. I missed a lot of chat out, so I do apologise. If I've missed a question or something that you've asked, do just put it back in chat in big fat capital letters. Andy McLeish asks if anyone's experienced the Bart Sharp airbrush. Never even heard of it, to be honest. Is it one of these cheap bargain packs off eBay, i.e. Chinese knockoff? Is that a Hobby Zone draw unit? Can it fit Citadel pots? If so, I need to go shopping. Yes, I got this specifically to hold Citadel paint pots. It is you get the unit where it's 2 drawers, not the one that's got 3 drawers, because that's no use to you at all, because they're not. The one that's got 3 drawers, the drawers are not tall enough to hold the Citadel paint. The one that's got 2 drawers, which I can't tell you the code of, it's BO2 or something. They're not tall enough for shades. I've actually had to put all my shades on the paint rack at the top. It looks like it fits, but that shade doesn't actually fit. It sticks up a tiny bit. They are tall enough for contrast paints, which are slightly bigger, but they're smaller than shades. So you can fit regular paints and contrast paints in these. You can't fit shades. So I got 2 sets of those. So I got 4 drawers, and they've got all my paints in, all my Citadel paints, which is brilliant. And I've gone really anal. I've put them in order. There's my golds and my silvers. Yeah, I went that OCD because I was storing them in piles, and I needed to get them sorted out. So right, where are we up to? Bart Sharp Airbrushes is a UK company. Okay, never heard of them, to be honest. Got to say, watching Fox try to put the drawers together was quite entertaining. Yeah, I'm not practical. OMO2B drawers module ×2 says Stupid. That's the one. Thank you. It was quite good because I ordered them. I was going to get them from eModels, where I normally get them from. They are available at eModels, but when I was ordering them, the 2 drawer set wasn't in stock, so I just ordered them straight from Hobby Zone in Poland. And they sent me the box, and the box was marked OMO2B. double drawer. When I opened the box up, it had the triple drawer set in. So their own labelling and packaging said it was the 2-drawer set, but inside was the 3-drawer set, and I'd ordered 2 of them, so I had these 2 sets. So I mailed them at Hobby Zone and said, "Hi guys, thanks very much, you've sent me this, it's got to me really fast, only 4 days. But it's the wrong ones. You've sent me," the guys picked the box off the shelf that says OMO2B, but it's got the wrong thing inside it. So they said, "No problem, we'll send you the right ones." They sent me the right ones, and then they sent me another email saying, "Oh, by the way, forgot to tell you, you can keep the old ones. You don't need to send them back." Thanks, guys. So really kind of them to do that. So the ones I got with the 3 drawers, they're going off to Tony. He's inheriting those. Big swig of tea. But a massive thanks to the guys at Hobby Zone for doing that. They could have asked me to send them back, but they didn't. They just said just keep them, which is cool. Right. People are talking about airbrushes. Somebody is texticating me. Just thought I'd let you know the stream is still working, says Chris. Thank you very much, Chris. That's very kind of you. Why I order. Right, let's do some damn work. I used the glorious Starship Filth on my GM this week. Fox was wondering if you had any advice that wasn't in your Gunk Wash Gumpler vid. Nope. That's pretty much it. Leave it to dry for 5 days, at least. More if you can. Before you do anything else, before you put anything else on top of it, give it a varnish. Go over it with a matte varnish. But no, that's kind of all of it. Michael Studio, hello, welcome, Michael, welcome. Did it come out nicely on your GM? Did it look glorious? Right, let's get some damn work done, Fox. So we built 2 of the dudes, so we've got 2 dudes to build, and then the fetid bloat drone. I'll tell you what, this plastic, I've mentioned before about this plastic in the Warhammer Conquest set, how it's different to normal GW plastic. It's kind of more brittle and it's more buttery at the same time for scraping and sculpting. I have noticed one thing, it's a lot more prone to breakage than GW plastic. Like just on this is normally 1 sprue and I've separated it out, but just on this alone, without me really doing anything, that guy's grenade has snapped off. There was a grenade on the back of him that snapped off and disappeared. On the fetid bloat drone, this part here was bent all the way down, almost snapped off, but it was just hanging on, so I managed to glue it back, so it's sitting there delicately. And I've had a lot of problems with like spikes and things just snapping, and delicate parts just snapping completely. And not through rough handling, I'm very careful with these things, but it does seem a bit more prone to snappage on the thin, delicate parts than GW plastic. So if you're doing the Conquest builds, just go careful, especially with this Death Guard stuff, which is covered in spikes and all kinds of loose tiny bits. Just go careful with it. Don't get too handy with it. Right, let's do some work. Stop farting about, Fox. Right, where are we? So we want to do 11 and 12. I've got the wrong glasses on for a start. Oh, farting about continues. Let's have a look. Dad says on his bench he's making the Orc Stomper, and it's huge. Yes, I went to games to Warhammer World with Chris and Dad and Cy Reynolds, who didn't turn up because he's rubbish and he forgot. Part-timer. And Dad was like, "I should really buy something," and I said, "What are you going to get, Dad?" And before I'd even finished the sentence, he'd gone off and come back and got an Orc Stomper, and the thing is the size of a house, so yeah, it's kind of significant. Fox working, I know. I have a paint rack, just not the room for it, says Nim, since I moved. Hey Nim, didn't see you there. The problem I've got with paint racks, I would love a paint rack, but I have said this before, I'm on the wrong sprue, I've said that before as well. I have said this before, but my house, this house I am in, the house in which I live, way too overcomplicated that sentence, unfortunately was built in the 1930s, standard British 1930s semi-detached, and sadly it still has the original plaster, mostly, not all of it. It's not had a lot of work done to it over the years, so we've got very, very old plaster, which is fine, but it's not the best for actually sticking anything in, as in if I put a nail in the wall it'll just fall out eventually. If I screw something into the wall with a plas plug and a bit of, maybe some kind of bonder or no more nails type stuff just to hold it in place, even then, it's still going to come out because the plaster is fine, but not going to survive much. So really putting something on the wall that needs to be load bearing like a paint rack, it's just not going to happen. It's just going to come out. So I don't really have a lot of options for hanging things up, unfortunately. That's the problem I've got. So when I suddenly, because I've up until now I've got all my Tamiya paints. I've got millions of Tamiya paints, and I don't often use them, but I do have them, and they're in the when you see me do a live stream, behind me there's like a metal toolbox behind me. They're in there, and they've been there for years. But I don't often go in that because I don't often use them. So, and it's a bit of a pain to get into. 13 I need. Not on this sprue, or going back to the sprue? Back to the sprue. Yeah, I thought so. But other than that, so I've got all those paints in there. The drawers in front of me here, they're a mixture of Ammo by Mig, the little one, the little drawers that have these little units like these. The little, you get a set, and it's 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, like that in a row, but 2 layers. So you get 6 of these little things. They're just about the right size to get some ammo paint, ammo weathering stuff, or except it won't now go back in, or you can get a whole mess of Vallejo paints in them like that. So that's what I've done. I've just been using the space I've got. But for my Citadel paints, I've had nowhere to put them. So they've been in my Citadel project box like forever. All of them. And I have to go and open it up and find the colour and mess about to find them. And it's a bit of a pain. And I can't find 13. Where's 13? 13. 8, 15, 12. There we go. So I suddenly realised, I thought, hang on a minute. These drawers I've got, where you get 3 drawers, they're not quite tall enough for the Citadel paints, but what about the 2 drawer ones by default? Surely must be the right size, because they're taller. So I took a punt and took a risk, and they're perfect for Citadels. So I've got all my Citadel paints, aside from the shades, in the drawers. Nice and tidy now, and easily accessible, which is the main thing. So yeah, so more than happy. Hobby Zone stuff's brilliant. Right, swig of tea. I'll just get half a litre of tea out my moustache. Fox, you know the screw plugs are supposed to go into brick behind the plaster. Also the expanders. I know, but it's also 1930s bricks that are also crumbly. That's what I mean. Even with plas plugs, and even if I put the plas plug through into the brick and covered it in no more nails and did all that stuff, it would still come out because the bricks are old and the plaster's old, and it just, the walls do not hold things in, unfortunately. So I don't really have a lot of options when it comes to attaching things to the wall, sadly, which is fine. We find our way around it. It's not the end of the world. Where's me god hands? Yeah. I need my helmet of seeing so I can see what I'm doing. So yeah, it's just because it's an old house. I mean, some areas it's fine. Some areas you just cannot trust the plaster at all, or the brickwork to hold whatever you put in it in place. Especially if it's something heavy like a rack full of 70 paints. Yeah. I mean, I might be able to get like a simple shelf in the wall, and if I have a few models on it or something lightweight, it might be all right. But stuck in like a paint rack with 60 or 70 paints, yeah, that's going to come off the wall. That's not going to last more than 5 minutes, unfortunately. It's hard enough even just keeping things like thumbtacks in the wall. They tend to fly out at willy-nilly. That's that bit. So let's get these trimmed up and cleaned up. So this set here, we built 2 Death Guard. We've got 2 more Death Guard Plague Marines to build. We've got the I get that. We've got the Fetid Bloat Drone. I don't know why, but so many people pronounce that wrong. Fetid Bloat Drone. They call it all kinds of things. It's like, dude, it's just Fetid Bloat Drone. Let's have a look. It's not a wall hanging one. It sits on my desk and looks like a choir riser, says Nim. Yeah, I've got a similar thing for my. I'll move the camera, but I'll regret it. Okay, I'll regret it. So like that. It just because I can't get the shades in Right, where's the centre? There's the centre. Because I can't get the shades in the drawers. They've just had to all live up there at the moment with a couple of other bits, which is fine. Which is fine. But, I've received issues 71, 72, 73 and 74 of Conquest this weekend. Finally, says Osric. I am up to issue... where am I up to? Issue... I know there's been a delay. Oh, there's been a delay even. 67, 68, 69. I'm up to issue 69. Nice round number. I haven't received anything after 69 yet. But the fancy tank is 75, 6, 7 and 8. Yes. Beyond hope. You do realise who you're talking to about house construction, right? Yes. I know nothing practical. One day the info may stick. Blue Tack says gross models. Yeah, because they're great. That's great for holding shelves in. My paint rack is hanging on a closet door with over-the-door hooks, holding it by a steel portrait cord I attached. It works like a champ. I've actually got one of those to hold, says Dan. I've got one of those actually that holds the bathroom towels over the bathroom door, and that is an option actually. I never thought of that. Never actually thought of that. Get yourself one of the paint racks and then just attach it to one of those over the door towel rack type things. That might work. Except I know me, every time I open my door, I'll just, yeah, it'll be just paint pots everywhere because I'm inept. Team Inept, like and subscribe. Have I missed the most important question, says Nim. I don't know. Dad didn't ask it, I don't think, but everybody started answering it. So you may as well go ahead and answer it. Bench for me is this, and then later on I'll be back on with George's Sazabi. And Belly I don't know, because we might not be having Chinese now. God damn it. Ghost Lyle is in. Haha, I'm in the chat. Pineapple, 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 pineapple. And then everybody starts saying pineapple back to him. And Eric Graham puts in a pumpkin. I think that's a pumpkin. I can't quite tell. Ow, spiky. So, yeah, so going forward, given the hassle we had yesterday with the stream, at first, here's basically what happened. The first couple of weeks that I did the Sidewinder Saturday, we had the same problem. It would crash at about 3:30, about half an hour in. For some reason, I got it in my head that it must be something, the computer doing something around about 3:30 that's maxing out the processor. Because what basically happens is, what you see is the stream just stop. What I see is that I get a pop-up on the Xbox, which is streaming to the computer, which just says, you know, I've stopped streaming to the computer. And I look at the computer and the fan's going full whack and everything is frozen. I mean, literally everything. I can't control or delete it. I've got no mouse response. I've got no keyboard response, nothing. And the only thing I can do is hit the power switch and turn it off. Then when I turn it back on again, the fan is still going at full whack, so I have to switch it off again and physically turn the power off. Give it 10 seconds, turn it on again. So I thought to myself, well, it's the same time. I did it a couple of weeks. It's the same time. So maybe what I need to do, I can't remember how I came to the conclusion, but what I realised I could do is go into the Windows settings and just pause. You can't turn off automatic Windows updates. You know, for like updates for the virus defender and your system and stuff. You can't turn that off permanently. But you can pause it for up to 7 days. So what I thought was, what I'll do, I'll try it the next week. I'll pause it in the morning. And then hopefully it won't kick in. And if it is that, my stream should be alright. Because my thinking was that it was, I started the stream and then within half an hour the system was kicking in. It was looking for Windows updates and security updates. It was downloading those and trying to install them, which was making everything fall over and crash because it was chewing up the processor. Because typically when I'm doing a stream, I'm using between 30 and 40% GPU and CPU, and when I'm doing a gaming stream, when I've also got the Xbox app running on the computer and Streamlabs, it's more like 45 to 50%. So it shouldn't be making my computer crash. really. My thought was that all the the automatic update processes were probably adding to that and making it fall over. So the next week came, and in the morning I turned off automatic updates, did the stream, and when I finished the stream I turned automatic updates back on again. And it was fine for a couple of weeks. It worked perfectly, no falling over. So I thought that was it, that we fixed the problem. However, yesterday what happened was I actually forgot to turn updates off, because it had been a couple of weeks and I'd forgotten how I do it. You know, you don't do something for a couple of weeks, you completely forget it. So I forgot to turn it off. And if you watch the stream, I actually say about 10 or 15 minutes in, oh, I forgot to turn that off. So I turned it off, automatic updates. But it still crashed about past. So what I think possibly happened is that although I turned off automatic updates, it was probably already in the process of checking for or downloading updates anyway, or something like that, and it still caused the problem, and therefore it still crashed. But then, of course, I rebooted and started again, and it still crashed the second time. But at that point, automatic updates was turned off. So what I'm going to do, like I say, is, on the off chance it is just that automatic update that's causing the problem, I do need to get a new PC, because I need something with more grunt and more power. Because it's not really future-proof. It can just about do what I need it to do now. But I'm struggling with, like, video editing takes a long time because it's not super fast. So I do need to update it anyway. But if it is just that Windows updating problem, and it's just a case of me remembering to do it first thing in the morning, so that by the time I come to the stream, any updates have just already been dealt with, then we'll be all right for the next few weeks. So I will, like I say, I'll either do another stream on Saturday next week and hope it doesn't crash, or I might do a test stream during the week sometime, just for a few hours, just to see. But I think it is something around about something to do with the fact it's always Saturday about 3:30. Now, there's nothing actually built in on the computer as a schedule that I can see where it says every Saturday at 3:30. So I don't know. But we'll see. We'll do a test either next weekend as a normal stream, or during the week sometime, and see what happens. And if it works, then brilliant. We'll carry on doing the Saturday Sidewinder streams, and eventually I'll get my PC updated, but there'll be less of a rush. Because that's why I think it's working fine now, because I'm doing it now, but there's only the camera and the Streamlabs software. Now, I have got the auto update turned off, but I think in the past I haven't. When I've done this kind of stream, maybe it's because I've only got a camera and the streaming software. If it does an auto update at the same time, it doesn't kill the system, because it's not also got the Xbox app running at the same time. So maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't know anything about computers. I'm kind of flailing my arms around in the dark, so we'll see. Anyway, so either I will do a test stream during the week or next Saturday. And if it works, then fine, we can crack on, we can carry on with the gaming streams, and I'll eventually update my PC. Or if it doesn't work and we still get the crashing, then I'll just have to hold off on the gaming streams until I've updated my PC a little bit. So we shall see. I've got a good friend of mine looking into bits and parts for me. I need to update it anyway, because it's a bit old, and it's not exactly brilliant for running editing software and, say, Photoshop at the same time. It starts to chug along a bit, so it needs a bit of an update. Right. I'm pretty sure you can tell the PC when to do its updating stuff, can't you? That's the weird thing. It's set as, the computer is set that between 9 AM and midnight is work time, and outside of that is outside of hours. Yet it still tries to do the update at like 3:30 on a Saturday. And I can't find anywhere that says don't do this at 3:30 on a Saturday, or that tells it to do it on 3:30 on a Saturday. I don't know. So I just turn it off. It's never been a problem with other streams, just with that Saturday one. So we shall see. We shall see. A good test would be to do a non-gaming stream on a Saturday, and see if it makes it fall over. But if any of my streams ever do that, if you're watching one of my streams, it does fall over, obviously apologies. The way YouTube works, if a stream does stop halfway through or suddenly and I have to restart it, you can't stay on the same page where you're in the chat and everything. You have to then go back to my home page and wait for the new stream to start, because it'll be a different stream. Basically, I'll have a different chat. So big cup of tea. So yeah, if you ever do that, if you ever do fall out, and this is anybody doing a stream, if it ever falls out, It's always worth just opening up the homepage because it'll probably be a completely new stream. LD is in. Welcome, LD. James Lormore says, for a Valentine's Day, got a whole heart-shaped pizza, pepperoni pizza from the missus. That's really nice. When you reboot your PC, you'll need to toggle the pause update each time. It stays off, actually. It kind of stays off. Fox, update schedule in option in update settings. Yeah, I've tried that. I've tried that as well. Like I say, it does say out of hours is after midnight, before 9 AM, and other things as well. I've tried that. It just doesn't. I don't know if it's update. I don't know. I don't know what updates it is. So, pretty weird. Maybe you got a Thargoid problem. What I personally recommend is updated during the week, then stream. They are needed for protection and can cause risks. If not done that, what I prefer is hassle. Yeah, I mean, literally, that's King Flash Rose Gaming. Welcome, King Flash Rose Gaming. Yeah, I mean, literally, what I had been doing for the few weeks is just my auto update is always on permanently. But when I need to stream, I just turn it off that morning. I'll do the stream during the day, and then I'll turn it off after turn it back on again after the stream. So I only take it down theoretically on the day when I'm doing the streaming. That's my plan, and it was working. But I also know very little about computers, so I'm really just giving incantations and hoping. Let's just be honest here. Right, wherever the nub, there's a nub mark. That's because it's 9 and 10, Monday to Friday only. I shall double check. The scheduling thing. See when it sets in hours. Because, I mean, it might just be that. If I'm lucky, it is just that, and that's all it is. And that will fix it. And if I can just set it as a specific time, then that also stops me having to do it manually all the time, which is nice. But I do need to update my PC. For various different reasons. Like I say, it's chugging a bit when I'm doing, like, Photoshop, for example. It does struggle sometimes. It's got big RAMs and everything. I think it's just old. Plus, it's only got one USB 3 port, and that's broken. Yeah, I kind of broke it. Also, the clock doesn't automatically update, so I have to run a little app that updates the clock manually. So I think there's some damage there. When the USB 3 port got knackered, I think it took some things with it on the motherboard. But yeah, so I want to get a working USB 3 port purely for faster data transfer, cameras and stuff, and also at some point I might want to get an Elgato of some sort of capture device perhaps, and that needs a USB 3 really. And also I've only got a couple of USB ports on the front of the PC. The rest are on the back that I can't get to, so I want to get a new one made up that's got lots and lots of USB ports all over the front that I can easily get to, because around the back of my PC is the wall and spiders and dust. There ain't no access around the back. The rear-facing ports are no use to me. That's where all the permanently attached things go. Any more seams, or is that? I think that's it. What I do like about the Death Guard is they're fairly seam-free, mould line-free, and where there are mould lines, it kind of fits in with the gnarliness of their armour anyway. Certain amount of leeway with these guys. But there's lots of dangly things like this that is just going to snap off the moment I try and do anything serious with it. Guarantee it. What's chat doing? Morning from Minnesota, says John Heller. Welcome, John. Gion, I assume. Gion, John. The demon in the magic box requires stability. Not the right kind of stability, huh? Sorry. Now, if I'd picked up the wrong one there, that would have just been there. Athel McNichol, afternoon all, from Galeforce, north east of Scotland. Welcome, Athel. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Viewers in the UK, hopefully all of you are safe and sound. Some areas, especially I think South Wales, have been quite badly hit by Storm Dave or Dan or whatever it was. Storm Dingus. We're up in Cheshire, so we kind of get a little bit of wind and that's it. We never really get the bad effects, thankfully. We managed to avoid pretty much everything that ever happens in the UK. But some areas have been badly hit, so if you are, well, I was going to say if you're watching this, do stay safe, but if you're watching this, you're probably in an area that hasn't been flooded. If you're watching this later on, I hope I'll just stop now, because there's no way, you know what I mean. We're watching this. If your house was flooded and you're being carried out your house on a boat, a rescue boat, you're not going to be watching this, are you? But stay safe, everyone. Yeah, we seem to avoid all the worst weather here in this part of the world. You know, everywhere gets floods, we get a bit of rain. Everywhere gets 1 billion mile an hour winds, we get a bit of a gust. Everywhere gets 10-foot snow drifts, we get a little bit of snow. Not complaining, although I would like a nice big chunky snowfall at some point. Terrace says, afternoon Athol, it's just as refreshing here in Glasgow. Aye, fantastic. Storm Dennis, that's the one, yes. Dennis or Doofus or whatever it was. Dennis, they spelt it wrong. Put a D on the front by mistake. Hey, you see what I did there? With all the children. Bit blowy here in Clydebank, says Skullfish. Everyone's in Scotland. Cool. As a half Scot, I fully approve of this. I'm 50% Irish and 50% Scottish, which makes me pallid and confused, generally, for the most part. I certainly have Glaswegian knees, as my father would say. I'm trying to get the nubs off these little bells on this guy's armour, but of course I don't want to go too heavy because it's on a dangly bit and it's just going to snap off if I'm not careful. It's more snappy off bits. And I don't want the entire load of Death Guard guys to have missing bits because that would be a bit rubbish. It's bucketing down here in Queensland, Australia. G'day, bro. Good that it's bucketing down. That's the best possible news. I take it all the fires I've not heard much about the bushfires, so I assume they're kind of coming under control now. Do fill me in. Let's chat doing. Up my way, there used to be a 10-foot snowdrift around my grandma's house, says Quano Man. When I was a kid, because you're Manchester, so you're not far from me, but I'm only, a handful of miles from Manchester. When I was a kid in the 70s, we used to get proper snow. Proper deep, fluffy snowfall. It was great. Now we get nothing. We had one about 10 years ago. At the time, I woke up to get ready for work. I looked out the window. I had some... And it was like snowing like crazy, but I thought I need to go to work anyway. So I set off to work and I couldn't make it in the end because the snow was so bad. The buses were cancelled and the taxi got halfway there and gave up. So I phoned it and they were like, yeah, don't bother coming in. So I got home again and I'm looking out the window. Beautiful, deep, fluffy snow. And my friend had given me a load of Doctor Who soundtracks, which I hadn't really actually listened to at that point. Well, I'd had a quick listen to some of them, but I didn't really like much of them. So I had some of them, and I was looking out the window, and I just put one on, and the first thing I heard was All the Strange, Strange Creatures by Murray Gold, which is, I think it's like the first season of New Who. Anyway, I heard that playing, and the opening few bars of that now, whenever I hear the opening few bars of that, to me, it's snowy weather music. It's just like, it's almost like Christmas music without Christmas. It's a sound of snowy weather. Just the high strings and the little arpeggio before the main theme kicks in. I can't not hear snow now when I hear that tune. Snowy music. Thank you, Fox, for all your videos. It's made me such a better model maker, says Dan Butler. Thank you very much, Dan. That's very kind of you. I'm glad it helps. I have been a bit out of sorts over the last sort of 6 to 12 months and not really doing a lot of content, but that's going to change this year. I've got a lot of things planned, but I'm glad it's helped. And thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it. Want some of ours? We've got plenty of snow. I'd love some. See, the thing is, And I've said this before, like when I've had like a go to work job in the past, get up and go to work and stuff. Snow's the biggest pain in the world because especially if you drive to work or if you get public transport, it's a nightmare because I've got to drive in snow or walk to work or get the bus that's probably not going to. Then your boss gets grumpy. And that one day when we had the bad snow and even the taxi couldn't get there, and they said, "Don't bother coming in. It's just terrible. Nobody's made it in." And then got there the next day and they were like, "Okay, all those people that didn't come in, you're all getting a day's pay docked." And we're like, "Hang on, you told us not to come in." And they're like, "Hey, we're a call centre. We don't care." And I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." So, yeah, when you actually got a job to go to, snow is the worst thing in the world because it's just instant pain in the ass. When you work from home, it's the best thing ever because if I get heavy snowfall, I'm already at work. So if we had like a 3-foot snowdrift now, I'd go out and play in the snow. It'd be brilliant. It'd be fun. Well, not right now, obviously, but so my frustration is that now I'm in a position in life where I don't need to. Where deep snowfall would not be a problem and can actually be enjoyed, it never happens. I love the snow. I love the snow. I love the way it changes the light. I love the way it changes the sound of the world. It's hard to explain. I have a way of looking at the world which I can't really explain in words in any way that sufficiently explains it, but I have a way of looking at the world, and it's all to do with colour and light, and certain things, certain times have different things and meanings and effects on me. Like, for example, I remember as a kid I'd sit in the living room downstairs and we'd have these big net curtains on the front bay window, and always around January time before I'd go back to school. So I'd be watching Jason and the Argonauts on telly or something, or Sinbad, or the Christmas lectures, and I'd be sat there, and it's only ever in January, February time, you'd look out the window, or you'd look to the window, and have these big old net curtains up, and the light would just be this particular white kind of quality to it. It wouldn't be yellowy, it wouldn't be summery, it was just kind of white, and there's no way to explain it, but that doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't seem to exist anymore, that specific kind of tone and hue of light. If I went downstairs now and looked through the same net, not the same net curtains, but through the net curtains on the bay window that's still there, it doesn't look the same. But yes, snow, just like you walk out into snow, first of all you get the cold, and snow is a very dry cold. When it's been heavily snowing, you get that sort of crisp, dry niceness. You get the sound of it underfoot. The light, everything in the world is suddenly bathed in this soft white, almost like LED-like light. It's beautiful, soft. It softens edges, and everything looks ever so slightly anti-aliased. And it just is calm and relaxing. And of course, it muffles everything. All the sound is muffled. When you go into my garden, you can hear traffic. You can hear the planes at the airport, you can hear all kinds of things. When it's snowy, you go outside and there's nothing. It's like being in a soundproof room. It's fantastic. There's nothing quite compares to it, and it's so peaceful. Wrap up warm and go and sit in the garden when it's snowed, or when it is actually snowing. It's the best thing ever. Of course, it's cold and it's a pain in the bum for that, and it does mean it takes half an hour to get to the shops. It's really hard work to walk to the shops, because you've suddenly got to trump through the snow. But at the same time, I get to wear my good old 1970s John Motson car coat, which I don't normally get to wear, with its, fur collar and suede crushed sort of stuff, and it's like, yeah. My Motti coat. So there is that, and you get to wear gloves and things. And the snow just makes everything better when you can enjoy it. If you've got to go to work, yeah, that's when it becomes a pain in the bum. How come I feel Fox went off and is channeling Bob Ross? I'm always channeling Bob Ross. I just do it very loudly and vigorously rather than quietly and mellow. Not fun biking in the snow down country lanes. Luckily, I don't have that job anymore. Yep. I have a question for everyone, says Terrace. Why are Forge World Titans £1,500? Are they really worth that much? This is more a general question as to why are resin kits so expensive. I've answered this before, but I'm happy to answer it again. It's a question that a lot of people have. Whenever you look at model kits, for the most part, resin kits are often sometimes a lot more expensive than plastic counterparts. And it comes down to the cost of production and the limitations of production. What I mean by that is, and the same factors also explain why a lot of resin kits are made by small, tiny garage companies, and a lot of plastic kits are made by big companies. There's not many big companies that do resin kits like Forge World. Most of them are small individual garages, small outlets, and like individual sort of artisan types. And there's a simple reason for that. If you're a manufacturer and you design a little figure, let's say you design a figure. Well, no, let's put it a different way. Yeah, well, let's keep it simple. I design a thing, and it might cost me. It might cost me, let's say, 50 grand or 75 grand for the research and development, to pay a designer to come and design it, to do all the plan the sprues and do all the CAD work and stuff. So we'll use, these are random figures, by the way. So let's say I spend £100,000 on R&D for this model. And then I spend maybe the same again on marketing. Just random ballpark figures. Now, so I spent 200 grand. There's probably a lot more than that in real life, but we'll use those for sake of simplicity. So I've spent 200 grand on R&D, development and design. I spent 100 grand on marketing. Now I've got a choice. I can make it in plastic, or I can make it in resin. Here's the rub. Put my dog tags away because they're jingling. Here's the rub. If I make it in plastic, I will spend another 100 grand, let's say, random figure, another 100 grand on the mould, on the actual die, the tooling that is used as the mould. So I spent 300 grand. From that mould, I can produce hundreds of thousands of that model for years and years and years and years and years. So I can guarantee that as long as I sell the models, I can more than make back the money I've spent on R&D and the tooling, because I can keep making that model for 30 years. This is why you get Airfix kits from 1975 that are still made today. The tools still work. They're not great, but they still work. So I know I can say I've spent 300, 400 grand making this model, but I'm going to sell it for a tenner or 20 quid or whatever, and I know I'm going to sell enough to make, at very least, make that money back over the next 10 or 15 years. Because that moulding, as long as you look after it, that tool, that mould, will last forever. However, if I decide to make it in resin, this is where it gets more complicated. Because resin requires a whole different system. It doesn't have metal moulds. The moulds you use to make resin kits are actually, they have a very limited lifespan. There's various different ways to do it. There's rotary casting, all different ways of casting. But with plastic model, it's injection moulded. It's basically two moulds put together, clunk, and very high pressure and very high temperature. They squeeze the plastic in, splidge, it instantly cools, they pop the two apart, it pushes the mould out, and that's why you get injector pin marks, because it pops and it takes a second, and it's the same thing every time. With resin, it's different. With resin, you have to pour the resin in slowly, because if you pour it in too fast, you get air bubbles and you get rubbish. You have to pour it in slowly. It has to be the right viscosity. You have to put it in correctly. It does allow you more detail, but it's a more laborious process, and most importantly, that mould has a very limited lifespan because of the materials that are used to make it. They're not made out of metal and so on, they're made out of other stuff normally, but they do have a limited lifespan. And what you'll often find is a company might make a handful of molds from the original master mold, and they will know that out of each of those molds they may get 500 usable kits. So imagine your Forge World Titan. They might have a mold and they might say to themselves, well, we know this mold will do 500 kits, give or take, and then it'll be useless, because the constant molding and use of that mold and the heat and everything else and the pressure, it will eventually start to warp and go out of shape and misshape. And also there are issues with casting. Sometimes in the moulding process you can have errors and slippage and stuff, so it's not guaranteed. Every time you do a plastic mould, more often than not, as long as you're a good company and it's good quality, it'll be perfect, give or take the odd bit of flash. If you do a resin mould, you might have a 2 or 3% failure rate where you mould a sprue or mould a part and it's completely unusable because it's got twisted or misshapen, or it's got some slippage and 2 halves of the mould have moved. So the yield is much less. So now you've got, instead of saying, right, I've got this model, I can make 1 million of them and charge £10, I'll make £10 million. Now I've got a resin model, I can make 1,500 of them, and I've spent 300 grand on the development and making the molds and the sculpting and everything else. They've got to make the money back. And it's a simple equation of, we have a finite number of these we can make. Which is why whenever you buy a resin kit, more often than not, it will have a production number. If you look at the documentation that comes with it, if it's a good quality manufacturer, there'll be a production number. And it might be like, you look at it, it might say 325 of 500. It might just say item number 325. Sometimes they don't always reveal the production run, but if it's 325 of 500, that means they've only made 500 of them. So if they've spent 300 grand designing it and building it, they have to get that money back, and that's what dictates the price. So it 100% comes down to the limitations of the resin process. They can only make so many. Now with Forge World, with little tiny garage companies, like, you know, the little companies that make sort of busts and figures, you know, 1/6 scale figures and stuff in very small runs, they might make 500 of them and that's it. That's all they'll ever make. And that's it, end of, because at that point the mold is useless because it's too old and knackered. So they can charge quite a bit because they've got to make the money back. But they won't have such massive R&D costs because it's only like 1 or 2 people normally. With Forge World, it's a bit different. They do tend to milk their mould as long as possible. They'll have the master mould. And what they'll do is there's typically a master mould, which is the mould taken from the original master that was built. And that's the best quality mould. That is made and then stored away in a vault and never touched again. Then they have a production mould taken, which is taken from the master mould. And it's a mould of a mould, so it's not 100% perfect, but it's very good quality. And from that production mould, that will be used to create more moulds that will then be used to make the things that you buy. So you're not getting a model made off the master mould, or even necessarily the production mould, but the second generation production mould perhaps. And they might be able to squeeze that out for like 3 or 4 generations, maybe more. But at some point what you'll see is Forge World will take something out of stock. They'll just take it out completely. It'll go away and it'll disappear, and then it might come back another time. And typically what they've done there, what you'll see some manufacturers do, is they will either, when the molds get too knackered, they'll stop production. They'll say it's no longer available, and they'll either go back to the production mold and try and make another mold if they can, to milk it out even more. Sometimes they might actually just make a whole new sculpt and mold. So they might, very rarely, they might go back to the original master mold, but they really don't like doing that because that master is the absolute word of what the model was, and they want to use it as little as possible because every time they use it, it degrades. So that master very hardly ever gets used. So often they will just make a whole new model. They'll do a resculpt and everything, but they'll make as much as they can from the original molds, but they'll charge more. So that's why Forge World kits are so expensive, because of the production runs limitations. There's only so many they can make, and the cost. And the other thing, of course, is part of the price, especially because it's Games Workshop, of course, is it's not just about the cost of the materials, it's about the cost, the likelihood you're going to buy one. Because if you play one in game, it's so expensive in game that you're very rarely going to play it. Then they don't expect everybody to have one in their army. Even if it was £100 to buy the kit, they're so impractical to have on the tabletop in a lot of cases, because you might know 10 people that play and they'll all have like a little Imperial Guard army. You stick a Titan on the table, you've suddenly outgunned everybody. You've got like so they know that you're going to buy one and probably have one, and that's it, if you even buy one at all. So they have to do the pricing based on that as well, the in-game cost and the likelihood of you actually using it. So it's really resin. It's because it's resin. If it was a plastic kit, I don't know how much the it's like the Bane Blade. The Bane Blade used to be a Forge World kit in resin until the molds got so old and so knackered they couldn't make any more, and they made it into plastic kit, which was vastly superior. Now the old Bane Blade, Forge World Bane Blade, was a bit rubbish. It wasn't exactly detailed or anything, but that's why if you go and look at some of the tanks on Forge World now, you can go and buy a Bane Blade for £90. I've got one. Or you can buy something like I've got a Macarius Vanquisher, which is partial Bane Blade chassis with lots of resin bits stuck on the top, different, hull and cupola and stuff, and turret. That's £110, £125. But that's just the resin bits that go on top of a Bane Blade, so you have to buy a Bane Blade anyway. Or does it come with the plastic? I can't remember if it comes with the plastic bits. It might do. I think it does. So you're paying a bit more for that, but not massively. But if you look at some of the kits that are just resin, they're like £130, £140. Again, because they have to charge more because it's resin and they can only make so many of them. Now, they're not massively more expensive. They're maybe 40, 50, 60 quid more than a plastic Bane Blade. But there's still a price difference. When it comes to a Titan, of course, they know you're going to buy one. You're probably going to buy one. Some people might buy maybe two, and there are people that buy multiples of them. But if you're going to buy one, you're going to buy one. And they might sell, they'll sell a lot of tanks, but they might not sell very many Titans. So they have to also account for that as well. So if they can ever make 5,000 of them, and it costs them X amount to develop, and it costs them, and they have to, they know they're only going to sell them slowly. That's why they're still around after all these years, because people don't buy them every week. I don't know what the current numbers are. If anybody's got one out there, go and find your little thing that came with it and tell us what your production run number was. But it's because it's resin. You'll always pay more for resin. Let's have a look. Dan Kramer says you should come here and visit here, Fox. We're in the zone where Fahrenheit and Celsius meet. There's around minus 40 degrees. I heard that resin kits will be redundant soon as more and more pound D kits are made. I don't know what that means, pound D kits. I think there'll always be a market for resin. People always like resin. It does allow them something copper. Oh, that is something coppery there. The one beauty of resin is for small independent companies like little garage things, they can't afford to do plastic kits. To make a plastic kit is a lot more expensive than to make a resin kit. Because to make a resin kit, you make a mould off your master and you can cast your own. To make a plastic kit, you've got to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds making a mould. So, yeah. So resin kits will always be around with tiny little companies because they can't afford plastic production runs. So garage companies and things like that. For big companies like Forge World, yeah, they'll still go around because they know people are going to pay the extra money. Right, so I need to make this guy. Have a quick look at chat though first. My stepdaughter, I think he means 3D kits. All right, as more and more 3D kits are made, says I see what you mean. My stepdaughter and her husband just bought me the Anycubic Photon S. Cool. And McLeish, I'm off home. Catch you later, guys. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Eric Graham says David Sanderson. I don't know what we're talking about. David Sanderson says, perfect example, stand next to a railroad tracks during winter and the same during summer. There's a different sound difference when a train's approaching. I suppose I could ask the question, narrow the question, says Ateris, by asking, if the process to making plastic titans kept the price reasonable with a slight reduction of scale, why not make them plastic? Because they can keep them resin and charge 1,500 quid. While they've got the moulds to make titans in resin and charge 1,500 to 2,000 quid for a complete set, they'd be crazy to make a plastic version for half the price that cost the consumer half the price. Again, it's tied into the points cost of using them in a game. Not often that you go and join a game of Warhammer and it's got the kind of points budget to have a Titan in there. So they're not going to sell them often. I mean, if they made them in plastic and did a plastic version, they'd probably sell more and more people would use them. But at the moment, it's like saying, why is a Ferrari cost a lot more than a Ford Mondeo? It's the same principle. One's a luxury item, one's a boring middle of the road middle-class car, but they're both cars, still made of metal. Why is a Ferrari so expensive compared to a Ford Escort, a Ford Mondeo? Still an engine, still a car. It's just that thing. It's just that they know they're not going to sell many, and while they've got the moulds that are working, while they've got moulds that, you know, can produce the kits, they'd be kind of stupid to make a plastic version. If I remember rightly, the only reason the Baneblade came out in plastic is because the moulds for the original resin ones for Forge were they were too knackered. They were beyond repair, basically. What am I doing here? This one here goes together like horse and carriage. Don't know. How does this go together? My 3D gland isn't working. What? There we go. Yeah, there's no reason for them to suddenly not keep selling the several £1,000 resin kits they can currently manufacture. I'm sure at some point they'll become so old and knackered that it wouldn't be worth them continuing with that. But then again, you see, there's always that little branch of the market that would quite happily pay all that money for a resin kit, because it's a step up from plastic. It's more prestigious, it's more serious business. So there'll always be a market for it, and they know people will pay money. As long as people are happy to pay money for it, they'll keep making it. But also, I think given the practicality of using one in game, would they really want to spend all that money manufacturing the tools and dies to make it something in plastic? I don't know if they would. Initially, they'd have to know they're going to sell a lot of them, because the cost of making the cost to the manufacturer of making a resin kit is massively cheaper than the cost of making a plastic kit. If you go from starting principles like the cost of the mold, the tooling. That goes on there. Stick that on first. This goes on the front. A-doo-ba-doo. And they'd have to. I think you'll only see them in plastic when the resin molds are beyond repair and they'd be at the point of having to start from scratch again somehow, or they suddenly realised there was a massive demand for them, and if they did them in plastic and spent all the money, because remember, they've got to spend all the money, the mould, the tool, could cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. They'd have to know that they could make that back by selling lots of them, and I don't think they would. Although they'd be a cool model to make, I don't think they would. I mean, Imperial Knights, they're expensive, but you can quite happily have a typical game of Warhammer and have a couple of Imperial Knights on the table. So they know they're going to sell you 2, 3 or 4 Knights, maybe in your Warhammer career. A Titan, yeah. I mean, think about it. There's enough people that complain that you get kits that cost hundreds of pounds, like people that say, why is the Bandai Falcon 300 quid, or why is that big Dora 500 quid, and why is that Trumpeter U-boat 500 quid, and and then you'd be asking them to pay. Because if a Titan came out, I don't know how much it would be. You're probably looking at £200 or £300, I would reckon, plastic. But then that's not taking into account how much they've spent on design and research, you see. They might charge more to recoup their costs, knowing they're not going to sell many. So you never know. Question. Carolina Roberto says, question, what makes a more expensive brush better than the cheap ones? Quality of materials. Simply put. If you're in the Boom Hut, Caroline, I don't know if you are. I'll put the link up in the chat for you. If you're in the Boom Hut, I can't remember if you are. Somebody did put up a video the other day, and it was from Winsor & Newton, showing how they make their Winsor & Newton Series 7 brushes. And quite simply, every Winsor & Newton Series 7 brush is 100% handmade, from wood and fur onwards, by a team of ladies who've been doing it for decades. And Winsor & Newton Series 7 are some of the best brushes you can get. So really it just comes down to the quality of materials and the manufacturing process. Mass-produced ones, brushes can be fine. The Games Workshop ones, yeah, they're alright. They're not that bad. They're alright. You can get on with them. But then you compare it to something like a Winsor & Newton Series 7. It's down to the hair, the fibres, how good they are, how strong they are, how well they keep their tip. For example, the Series 7 brushes are all sable. I think they're sable. Kolinsky sable, which are some of the best fibres, the best natural fur fibres, natural hairs for keeping a point and lasting a long time. Whereas synthetic brushes, they're dirt cheap because they're just synthetic, they're just plastic or nylon. They have different properties, they can last a long time, but things like Kolinsky sable, it's expensive because you have to get the Kolinsky sable. It's not cheap. But you're getting fantastic quality bristles on your brushes. And also, again, they're all handmade. There's a load of women sat there making them by hand, and it shows a woman who sits there and she gets a pile of Kolinsky sable brushes of her hair like that. Like, imagine a ball of fur, and she goes, ba 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 ba, tweezes them out with a finger, and suddenly you've got all the hairs lined up, all the same length. Now, you and I couldn't do that in a week. We'd be there going, hang on, that one's too long, and this one's wrong. She's like, they're all done in order of size, and she can just go, that's one brush, that's another brush, and just, it's amazing to watch. If you're in the Boom Hut, go and check it out. It's in there somewhere. Or if someone could find it on YouTube and put a link in the chat. You're paying for the quality of the materials, basically. Same with anything in life. Again, why would I think now? Why is Harder and Steenbeck airbrush £250 when this one I can see on eBay from another Chinese company is only £50, including a compressor? And it's quite simple. The another Chinese £150 will break within a week, and it's probably made really badly and is not great quality and has rubbish components that don't fit together properly. Whereas the Harder and Steenbeck will be expertly engineered, will work like a dream and last you a very long time. It's purely down to the quality of materials and the manufacturing process. Don't get me wrong, mass-produced brushes can be fine. Like I say, the Games Workshop brushes, I have no problem with. I mean, they're overpriced. Don't get me wrong. The Games Workshop brushes are overpriced, but I like them. They're all right. They don't last forever. Right, let's have a quick look through the chat. I built a dude. I've done some work. Look, holy cow! I did some work. I've not done his barrel out, but I'll wait till he's dried. Where are we? I like to play with resin, says Dan Kramer, but after the print steps is just so much extra mess. Hang on, let's start again. Nice. They're talking about 3D printing. I'd like to play with resin at 3D printing, but after print steps is just so much extra mess and hassle. Yeah, I've had no interest in getting a 3D printer just because I don't think it's there yet in terms of quality, and I really can't be fussed cleaning up all the stepping. No. When you can press a button and it goes thump, and there's something as good as a thing that's come out of a mould, then I'll be interested. What happens to the chat? It's dead. It does that sometimes. The streaming software kind of has a hiccup and the chat falls away and then comes back again. Don't panic. Athol says, Carolina, that's easy. Hair is far superior to filament, which is what most cheap brushes are made of, and therefore cheap to make. Yeah, so it costs a fortune to get a load of Kolinsky sable hair from Russia compared to pay the local factory some money to make some nylon strands. Plus, there are lots of types of hair used in brush manufacture, and not all are superior. Yeah, you get some brushes which are horsehair, like for example, what's this one? This is a Simply Brushes brush, and it's natural fibre. It's natural hair, but it's like off a badger's arse or something. It's a stipply brush. It's just rough as an old dog. It's just horrible. Whereas then you also get something like this is the De La Rowney Filbert. I love that name. It's a Filbert brush, and I don't think this is sable. This might be sable. It might be something else, but it's real natural hair. It's not quite the quality level of, say, a Series 7, and it's probably still slightly mass produced. This brush is about £2. This brush was about 35 quid. So yeah, not cheap. Something just happened. Something just happened with George's health, but I'm not seeing a reason why something just happened with George's health. I'll find out in the chat in a minute. Not 35 quid. It's about 15 quid, this brush. It's a proper oil painting on an easel type canvas type brush. I've had it for years when I used to paint paintings. But yeah, it depends. It's 100% depends on what materials have been used and what level of skill has been used to make it, the process of the actual manufacture. Like I say, if it's mass produced, it'll be cheap. If it's handmade, hand rolled cigars on the thighs of Cuban virgins or what have you, then yeah, it's going to cost you more because they've got to pay 30 ladies to sit there and make the brushes. So there you go. Let's have a look. Beyond Hope says, has anyone dealt with Hachette specifically buying from their shop? Bought 2 of the issue 5 Mortal Realms with exclusive miniature on top of the one I'm getting in the subscription. Money has been taken, but how long do Hachette take to ship? Not subscription orders. Don't know. I've never bought directly from them. It can take a little while, I think. Keep in mind with Hachette, I think it's Hachette. This is weird because both Hachette and D'Agostini have made some changes. I think Hachette have recently changed. Now, this is where I might get it wrong. One of them has just changed their customer service company, and one of them has just changed their distribution company. I think Hachette may have just changed their distributor, the company that sends out the stuff. So that was only in the last few weeks. So it may be taking a little while to catch up. So don't worry too much. I've had customer service from both Hachette and D'Agostini, and they've always been really good. They've always been quite handy. Some people have nightmares, but I've never had a problem with either of them, to be honest. Where are we? Dad's put a link up in the... Oh, I clicked on it. Oh, go back to chat. Back to chat. Oh, hang on. Right, let me reload the chat because I just clicked on Dad's link by mistake, you spoon fox. Right, how do I get... There we go, live chat. Dad's put a link for that video in the chat. Where are we up to? Try and catch up. I asked if snow absorbs sound, says David. Oh yeah, that's about the rail tracks. 3D should have been... Oh yeah. Athol says, Pound D should have been 3D, but everyone else seems to guess what it was. Yeah, I hadn't read the rest of the comments afterwards without the context of the following comments. I'm like, huh? Oh right, 3D. Where are we? Chicken curry for dinner. Chinese chicken curry, says Athol. Oh yeah, Chinese chicken curry. Oh, I've done it again. Oh, I clicked on the... Somehow my thumb clicked on the video link again. Oh, very frustrating. Right, I don't know what... I've lost the comment now, but Athol was having Chinese chicken curry. Kick ass. And on the table, characters from Mortal Realms. There you go. What's the best cleaning medium after using Future or Pledge here in America in my airbrush, says Dan Butler. Pretty much anything you would normally clean your airbrush with, just do it the moment you finish spraying. Don't leave it for more than 5 minutes. As soon as you finish your spraying, strip it down, clean it out. The best thing to clean, the thing that absolutely destroys Future / Pledge / Clear is anything with ammonia in it. So if you've got some Windex, which has ammonia in it, if you're in the US, then that will easily clear it out. Ammonia breaks down pledge/future/clear perfectly. However, don't just go and get neat ammonia, because neat ammonia will probably just ruin the inside of your airbrush. Even solvent and safe airbrushes can be damaged by ammonia. So just put normal airbrush cleaner, thinners, whatever you normally clean your airbrush out with will be absolutely fine. Just do it as soon as you've finished, and get yourself some airbrush brushes or some interstitial dental brushes, anything like that you can get into the barrel of the brush and scrub it. It's no different to normal. You can use normal cleaning products. You just have to do a better job than normal, because if it hardens and cures fully, you've just varnished the inside of your airbrush. So if you're desperate, yeah, anything with ammonia, like say Windex or something like that. If you're in the UK, it used to be you could clean your airbrush out with Windoline, which had ammonia in it. However, don't bother nowadays, because Windoline now has a vinegar in it, not ammonia, which is useless. It was the ammonia that was the active ingredient at getting rid of pledge. Where are we? Windex. Did I say Windex? Yes. Beyond Hope says Windex. Yeah, it's anything with ammonia based, not neat ammonia, like I say, because it stinks, you'll poison yourself, and it's might damage your airbrush. If your airbrush has got any kind of nickel plating or anything on the inside, it can sometimes eat that away, so that's why you want to be careful with ammonia stuff. Just ordered lunch, says Nim. Arby's it is today. Kick ass. Make sure to put a little post in the boom hut. I want to see pictures of your filth. Thanks for answering that, Fox. As a terrorist, the analogy of the Ferrari made sense. I don't play tabletop at all, so I didn't realise that they were so super rare. Yeah, kind of. Yo, Team Inept in the house, in it. I'm doing a dab. You can't see me, you can't even see the reflection of the screen. I'm doing a dab. I've just done my first ever dab. Paul is in. Everybody can start swearing. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention at the start, but this is my stream. You can swear as much as you want in chat. Do all the swears you want. I'm not going to read them out, but I don't care. Your chat doesn't affect my monetization. Someone has to shave those horses. Horse hairs are generally for rougher stippling brushes and things. They're not really for your fine painting brush. They tend to be things like sable and mink and Kolinsky sable and things like that. Red fox hair, red squirrel hair I've seen somewhere, like squirrel hair brushes. They're quite good for fine stuff. Some weird animals that they use. I use Windex for my paints. Didn't know if it was a go-to for the pledge as well, says Dan, but as long as it's got ammonia in it. I know some places don't do ammonia in their cleaners anymore, so. George's health hasn't changed, Fox. I saw a little pop-up just above the health bar, like a little +10 or -10 or something, so something happened. Don't forget, of course, it could be George messing with you, because the one thing that can happen is if George does a tip to the tip jar, it actually adds health back. So he can mess with you by giving himself health packs. But in one way, it's kind of interesting, because it means you've got more health to take back. It's like self-healing the boss at the end of a battle, but it also means then there's more money in the pot. So if you get George down to... I wouldn't be surprised if you got George down to like 100 health and he suddenly bopped 300 quid in the pot to take his health back up again, and now you've got 700 quid in the pot. So it's not a bad thing. There's a reason you like the word filbert, says Team Inept. It means fox. Really? I didn't know that. Filbert. See, to me, Filbert is the turtle in Rocco's Modern Life. Ah, Filbert. All I've got is this fond memory of him saying that he went to the adequate school of motor repair because he had to get a job as a mechanic. So he said, I went to the adequate school of auto repair. If it's worth repairing, it's worth repairing adequately. Some daily brushes are sable, usually say so on the brush. Day Cuban Virgins says, yeah, it's an old joke, an in-joke. My friend went on a tour of Cuba, of many places. One of the places he went to was Cuba, and he went round a Cuban cigar factory, and he walked in, and there's all the machines and stuff, and he said to the guy who was doing the tour, I thought that, because there's an old joke, isn't it, that, hang on, where's he's moved, everybody's moved. Hang on, let me move him back in again. There's an old joke that proper true Cuban cigars are hand-rolled on the thighs of Cuban virgins, and he mentioned this to the guy doing the tour, and he says, Senor, if you can find a virgin in Cuba, you can have the cigar. So yeah, that was that one. There's an old in-joke, an old joke amongst me and my friends. Hachette have moved to a warehouse 15 miles from me, says Beyond Hope, and I've replaced their customer service supplier. The Conquest mag is delayed by the move, but Mortal Realms was started at the new warehouse. Oh, there you go. It's new there, so they're probably still getting up to speed with it, so it'll probably take a little bit longer. Paul Di Tommaso says he got his half-track conversion kit from Zing Industries for the Torox. Quality is nice and the fit is pretty good. Like most resin parts, there's a little tweaking required. Yes, they're one of those small garage companies. You'll find a lot with resin. There's very few big companies like I was saying, like the very few big companies like Forge World that actually do resin. They tend to do, most big companies will do plastic. Like Revell don't really do resin. Tamiya don't do resin. You know, there's no point of it. They've got the plastic down pat. A lot of the companies that do resin are small, and they do things like, for example, Zinger, and there's another one called Blood and Skulls, I think I got mine from. They do things like add-on parts for things like the Torox, like they do tracks and wheels, and there's lots of companies that do resin add-ons for things, or just resin kits, but a lot of companies will do resin bits, but they're always small run productions, so they're worth having a look. They're not super expensive, they're not dirty cheap, but they're not super expensive. They're things like the Torox, you get things like tracks and wheels and stuff, and they're really good. I think mine was Blood and Skulls. Everybody's using rude words. Fantastic. Filbert Street, old home of Leicester City, nicknamed the Foxes. Filbert, George is in. George Gabriel, I have arrived. We can start now. Hey, George. George, did you give yourself some health earlier on? Because I saw something happen up. You might not have seen it on screen, but I saw something above your, and it was some. There's no donation gone in, but somebody did something, and you got some health taken off. Or I don't know. Anyway, welcome. George is your stream boss, so everybody has to behave now. What are we on? 4:30. Big swig of tea. Let's crack on with the next dude. The number you. Oh, hello. What was that? Mordraka tipped £1 and 3 space pence, which I'm going to guess is about $1. It just converts it. Thank you very much for that, Mordraka. That's taken a little bit of George's health off, unless that was what took George's health off like 45 minutes ago and it just hasn't come through yet until just now. But thank you very much for that. I've got a sniffly nose. I need to just quickly wipe my nose. Ooh, sniffly nose. Osric 9000 says probe. Beyond Hope says Anvil Industries statuesque minis are UK resin parts creators. Victoria minis in Australia, g'day, are amazing. And I got some not Judge Dredd parts from Puppet War EU over Christmas. Cool. Got sniffles terribly. Now there is a whole conversation to be had around well, this is going to open a massive can of worms. When it comes to resin, there is a conversation to be had around the people that do remolds. Like a company makes a model in resin, like a figure or a bust, and another company comes along and then makes a mold of that and then sells that.
Pika pika.
I will. Hello. From my roommate's. Hang on. Expand that comment so I can read it. From my roommate's cat who is watching the stream. Picture in the boom quotation that says it goes off the side of my screen. Thank you very much for that, Nim. That's very kind. Lovely, lovely. Thank you. Star. Well, I say thank you. It's not helping me. It's helping the pot. It's helping yourselves. Awesome. Bit more George's health come off. Look, George turns up and people start getting his health down. Yes. So recast and remolds. All I will say on this issue, because you say what you want in chat, I don't really care, but all I will say on the issue is that I consider it theft, and I will never, ever buy a remold unless it's a remold of something that's long since out of production and never going to be in production again. Then that's valid. If it's a remold of something that exists, then I will never ever. I consider it. If it's an existing property that's still going strong, I can't find the fourth guy. Where's the fourth guy? There. Oh, there. There we go. 6 and 7. I would consider it theft. Look, there's another bit there that's just snapping off. Just. Oh no, it's a nub. I'll let it off. But that's a whole different conversation that usually ends up in a flame war. So I'll just drop that grenade and run. Bye. Because there is an argument to be said. Well, Some people say, yeah, but resin kits are so expensive and I can't afford them, so why should I not go for the cheaper one? And it's like, well, you know, if you can't afford something, don't do it. Do something else. Because it is just theft. In my opinion. That's 6. Because, you know, you hear the tales, and I've read the tales of, imagine you're a little fella, a little guy, you're a tiny little company, you're just by yourself, and you make this beautiful statue of something. You make this beautiful figure that you spent a long time sculpting and creating. You put all your heart and soul into it. What piece do I need now? 7. And you've made this fantastic sculpt of a figure of some sort. Let's just, whatever, it doesn't really matter what it is. And you've spent a lot of money doing it, and this is your business. You're a tiny little garage manufacturer. You've invested all your money into this business. You do this sculpt. You pay a professional sculptor to do it, and that costs you a fortune. You make the molds. You've got a limited run of maybe 300 or 400 models, so you charge a bit more because you need to make your money back. You're charging, let's say, £75 for your model, and some scroty little git comes along, buys your model kit. Part number 8. This is what happens basically. Somebody comes along, buys your model that you've invested your entire life into making as a business, makes a mold from it, and then sells it for half the price. So now, why would anybody buy your model that is your livelihood when they can buy this scroty bloke's knockoff version for half the price? As a result, you go out of business. And the little guy fails. The little guy's, another pointy bit that's coming off. The little guy suffers. And that's why I see it 100% as theft. Because you're literally, if you're doing a remodel like that of an existing property that's still in production, you're literally taking food off someone's table. Because you're not fighting against the big corporations. 99% of the time you're fighting against the little man who's on his own working in his garage. And that's why I view it as theft. That's why I'll never buy a remold. Unless, like I say, it's of a property that's no longer in production. Like, you know, if someone does a remold of, I don't know, some Warhammer thing that's not been made in 10 years and will never be made again, then that's okay. That's a way of you know, you're not taking food off someone's table because that thing is no longer being produced and never will be. But that's so rarely the case, because 99% of the time it's some scroty Russian dude somewhere, usually Russian or Eastern European, ripping off an existing design and selling it at half or a third the price, because they haven't invested all that money in the mold and the technology and the design, the development. They simply bought your model and ripped it off, and they're often substandard anyway, because they're taking a mold of your model, they're not taking a mold of the original. So yeah, that's my opinion on remolds. I'll never support that unless I know 100% that model is something that no longer physically exists in any form other than that recast. Sorry, Fox. The stuff I got are not remolds. They are parts that look similar but are acceptably different to avoid copyright issues. No, I wasn't talking to you there, Beyond Hope. I know none of those are remolds. I just thought I'd mention the remold stuff because people new to resin, they won't know what's going on. You see, they'll be like, well, I can get this one, Forge World, or I can, well, you know, not full, but yeah, I can get this thing, or I can get it for like a third the price from this bloke on Amazon or eBay or somewhere. And it's like, yeah, it'll be half the quality, and it's also stolen. So it's just bootleg stuff. Does that include long out of production Forge World kits, say for instance the Elysian drop troops that they no longer make? No, that situation is not a problem, because then that's not actually stealing something that still exists. I don't. Forge World might particularly see that differently, because it's not a kit they make anymore, but it's technically their intellectual property. But I doubt they do anything with that. When it's something that no longer exists in its original form, then it's not a problem, because there's no other way to get that model. Then it's kind of, you know, fair game. If the original manufacturer has abandoned it, and then it's like, okay, well, there's no other way to get it, then that's fine, and I don't have a problem with that. Of course, then it's when it's something that is available. And you could say, well, Forge World's a big company, they can take it. It's like, yeah, but then imagine if every single one of their kits got recast like that, suddenly nobody's buying from them, so they go out of business, and that's a big chunk of Games Workshop gone down the toilet. Now Games Workshop has less money. Like the old bootleg Gunpla argument, it's the same principle. I have no truck with people, I have no agreement at all with bootleg Gunpla, because you're just stealing from Bandai. And it's like Bandai have said in the past, why should we bother to put all that money into research and development when everybody then goes and buys the Chinese knockoff version from Dragon or Dragon Momoko or somebody else? What's the point? Because the person doing the recast or the rip-off hasn't done any of the R&D, they've not any of the design, they're just stealing. So if it's something that exists in another form, in its proper form, then whether it's from Forge World or some little bloke in his garage who's really proud of the figure of Napoleon he spent months carving himself, and he's selling 500 at 50 quid a pop, and now there's some like Russian guy or Polish guy or something selling it for 25 quid, it's a knockoff. He's gonna, all that work he's put in, and he's now not selling his product, which means he's not paying his bills. He's taking food off his table. Beyond Hope says, I totally agree with remolds. They should not be treated as acceptable in any forum. How do you know if something is a remold? Says David Sanderson. It's generally, well, it's actually hard to tell, really. Typically, if it's a resin kit, you'd be buying it from the person that's made it. If it's a garage kit, you tend to buy them from the person that's selling them, because they only do small runs of a few hundred. If it's something on eBay, you've got no way to know whether you're buying the real thing or a remold. However, and it sounds like I'm being really sort of right-wing to say this, but it's not. The one way to know is remolds tend to come from Russia, Poland, and China. When you're on eBay, look where it's coming from. I think it's Poland, might be wrong. But the way to know, if you like your independent artists, like your little companies, like what did you mention? Anvil Industries, Statuesque Minis, Victoria Minis, things like that. If you want to support your small independent companies that aren't big multinationals and that can be brought to their knees by, IP theft like that, then just buy them from them or an authorized retailer. If you want to be perfectly, if you're buying resin stuff and you want to know for sure that you're, supporting the person that made the kit and not supporting a thief who might be profiting from that directly, it might be on one of these organised crimes, probably not, but if you want to know that you're supporting the person that made all the effort to make that kit, buy it from the person that made it or from a proper retailer. Got to go now, finish ready. I don't know if I'll be in Chrissy's stream later as I have a cricket match. Says Jimmy. Well, thanks for coming in, Jamie. I can't imagine be playing cricket in this weather, but enjoy if you do. Thanks for coming in, though. Fox, can of worms opened. Yeah, I decided to just go for it anyway. Who is messing with my health, says George. Yeah. Everybody could. Remember, folks, if you were here at the start when I explained it, the health bar at the top is George. He's the stream boss. Stream boss battle is a way for you guys to build up, to you guys as a community, to come together and build up a pot of money that one of you will win to spend at Games Workshop, Forge World or Goblin Games if you're in the EU. I make nothing off Stream Boss. None of that money goes towards me. I wish it did, but it doesn't. I regret the day I set it up, because now it's like I don't make anything off that. The money goes into the pot. You put the tip in the tip jar here, streamlabs.com/model making guru. The more you put in, the bigger your tip, the more of George's health comes off. The health bar's up here. The black bit is the health that's come off so far. It's always slow going at the start, but I think we're up to about 30 quid in the jar so far. Pulling that figure out of my house, it's about 30 quid. All the money just sits in that jar. The more you put in, the more health comes off. Whoever gets George to 0, whoever puts in that final dollar or pound or whatever that gets him to 0, firstly becomes a new stream boss and gets gloating power in the chat, command over everything, but also wins all the money in the pot. Now, I don't send you all the money in the pot because that's illegal in various formats, especially on YouTube and things, and various fraud laws. I can't just send you a load of money. That's not how it works. What I basically do is I contact you and I say, well done, you are the new stream boss. You now have 400, 500, 600, 700 quid to play with. And you tell me what you want to order from Games Workshop or from Forge World, or if you're in the EU or the UK, Goblin Gaming. I order it for you and it turns up. Now, I would say it's in your interest, especially for outside the UK, it's in your interest to order from Games Workshop or Forge World if you particularly want resin. Because if you choose Games Workshop stuff and you're in a country that's not this country here, that's not the UK, then all I do is I go to Games Workshop, I log in your country. So let's say you're in Australia. I log in and I say, it says, where are we delivering to? And I say, you're delivering to Australia. And they say, brilliant. Please tell us what you want. I place your order. And it basically, I have it ordered and delivered to your nearest Warhammer store. Why is this advantageous? Because, firstly, it's delivered to your local store. There is no shipping cost. It's also delivered from your country, within your country, so there's no import or tax duties or anything like that to pay. If I went to I've had people in the past say, can you order stuff from my local game, from this website, that website? And I've had to say to them, you can do, but that's going to cost you 80 quid shipping and you might get $150 import duty. That's wasting your money. If you win 500 quid to spend, it's much better that you spend 500 quid and not spend 300 quid plus 200 quid in shipping and taxes. So I do strongly recommend go for Games Workshop. Because if let's say you live in Fort Lauderdale, for a random place in the world, I'll order from the US store. I'll have it delivered to your local Games Workshop store, your local Warhammer store. It will cost you nothing in shipping. There'll be no taxes, like no import duty. If it comes from the UK, you'd have to pay import duties. And you basically get all the money to play with. Plus, it also helps out your local store a little bit as well. Whereas if you say, can you get me this, this, and this... I had somebody say to me once, instead of Warhammer, can I have some Gunpla instead? And I'd say, well, you can do, but you're going to waste half your winnings on import and shipping. They were like, oh yeah, good point. From Japan to wherever it was they were living. I'm like, well, you can if you want, but... So yeah, so to keep your winnings maximal, get it from Games Workshop. It costs you no shipping and it costs you no import duties. No point going for anything else. If you're in the EU or the UK, of course, you can, if Goblin Gaming ships there, you can order from Goblin Gaming. The advantage to this, there is the disadvantage is, of course, there will be, if you're outside the UK, there'll be import charges, potentially. Possibly, might not be, but there might be. Because, you import from a different country, sometimes your local customs will ask you to pay tax. So you might get import duties and shipping charge. But, of course, their Games Workshop stock is 20% off RRP. So it may well be that although you've got to take into account shipping and taxes, that may be balanced out by the fact you're paying 20% less for your Games Workshop. Or your Malifaux or your Conflict 47. It's up to you. But I would just say, for the sake of maximising your winnings, just go for Games Workshop. Or Forge World. Because over a certain amount, your deliveries are free from Games Workshop and Forge World anyway, so you know it makes sense. If it's a copy of a Forge World resin kit, the way to tell if it's a... Hang on, let me say that again. If it's a copy of a Forge World kit, asking how you know if it's a fake knockoff. If it's a copy of a Forge World kit, resin kit, the way to tell is if it all fits, then it's a knockoff. Yeah. If you have no problems with it whatsoever, it's clearly not a real Forge World kit. That's the thing with Forge World. You know, they are resin, so there's a lot of challenges. But the one thing that sets them apart, just from my own experience, from what I've heard from other people as well, this is not just me making this up, but yes, you will get, misfitting parts and misshapen bits. It's not uncommon with Forge World kits because it's resin. It's a symptom you get with any resin kit. Yes, you will have to do some reshaping a little bit. That's fine. That's expected. Like the barrels on my Macarius Vanquisher, they're a little bit... So I've got to straighten them out, but you just warm them up and just heat them up. That's not a problem. When you get mismolds and slippage, that's a bit of a problem. So yeah, there can be issues with it because it's resin. Their quality control is pretty good, but some stuff does slip through. But they are fantastic at customer service. They make up for the weakness of resin kits by having really good customer service. Like when I got my Macarius Vanquisher, I was actually at the Forge World store in Warhammer World, and I picked up a Macarius Vanquisher. I was like, oh, I want that. Oh, the gun. Oh, it's brilliant. Got dead excited, and I got home and it was like, wait a minute, that's not a Macarius Vanquisher. That's totally the wrong tank. They give me the wrong tank completely. They give me a Macarius something else with a little stubby gun on the front. I'm like, I don't want that. It's pants. I want the one with like the big Mobile Suit Gundam Earth Defense EDSF tank. I wanted that. I mailed them and said, hey, I've just opened it up when I've got home, and your chap in the shop has given me the wrong kit completely. Now, to be fair, it did say on the box, the wrong kit completely. So basically, he just picked up the wrong box, and I hadn't spotted it in store. So I got all the way home and I was like, oh, that's not even the right kit. But it did say on the box, the box label was correct. And they said, oh, really sorry about that. No problem at all. All you need to do is send it back and let us know when you've sent it. Send us a copy of the posting receipt and we'll send you the replacement right tank out. So I'm like, well, okay. I was kind of hoping they'd say, we'll send you the right one, don't worry about it, like I did with the Hobby Zone things, but yeah, maybe not. So I put it back in the box, I posted it back, and I took a picture of the post office receipt, and within 5 minutes of me sending an email saying, hi, I've posted the thing back to you, it should be within the next few days, it's done, signed for and registered, within 5 minutes, they mailed me back and said, brilliant, your replacement tank is on the way. So they didn't even wait to receive the one back that I sent. As the moment I sent them proof that I'd sent it, they were like, yep, fine, we'll send you a replacement. There you go, done. And it arrived the next day. No quibble, no nonsense. They didn't say, well, you should have checked the box. No, they just said, oh, sorry about that. Send it back, we'll replace it for you. Done. Because we all know, we've all come across companies where the first thing they would say is, well, it was your responsibility to check in store that they gave you the right item. To which I would say, yeah, but no, it was your member of staff's responsibility to make sure he was giving me the right item. And we all know companies like that. But no, they didn't even they were just like, oh, sorry about that, no problem, oh bad, send it back, we'll replace it for you, no probs. And that was within 5 minutes of sending the receipt. So yeah, you can't fault them on their customer service. They do replace stuff. And if you watch channels like Leaky Cheese, who does a lot of Horus Heresy stuff, so he does a lot of resin stuff, his thing is Forge World. I need to clear my throat. He goes through, if you're thinking about it, he goes through a lot of, like, he does a few videos talking about, how Forge World works and, the pros and cons and how it all works and what to look for in the kits. And, he and other content creators regularly say, yes, you can get issues because it's resin, and that's what happens with resin, but if anything goes wrong or if anything's not right, they'll just replace it for you. And he often says, if you have a mismold or a mismatched part, just take a photograph, send it to them and say, yeah, we'll replace that. When I got my Deathcore Krieg, I mailed them and said, they're really lovely, but the details were a little bit soft. You know, like the little Aquila on the helmet. Excuse me. The Aquila on the helmet is a little sort of soft and faint. Is this correct, or have I got a mismold? And they actually came back and said, that's actually what you get, because they're like 10 years old now and the molds are a bit old, so they're not going to be as pristine as they used to be. And I was like, well, that's fair enough. They're honest about it. That's fair enough. If that's the quality, then that's the quality, and I can't expect them to replace it. But, you know, it was worth asking, because I knew that if there's something not right, they'll replace it. So, yeah, so they make up for that in customer service. So, there you go. I have a couple of Forge World kits I need to make. I've got my Macarish Vanquisher and the flame tank that George very kindly got me for a Secret Santa, which I can't wait to build. I've also got my Deathcore guys that I can wait to build, because I'm going to have to pay someone to build them for me, because the arms make me angry. I can't do the arms, and it makes me sad. So I'll pay someone to make them for me. I'll pay them. I'll just pay someone to make them. Now I'm behind on the chat, so let me get this bit cleaned up and then I'll have a quick look at the chatulations. Put nobody in the tip jar. Oh, one other way I forgot to mention, by the way, if you want to really help this channel, don't forget, of course, if you're watching this and you like my content, it costs you nothing. Please make sure to like the video. Every video I do, just hit the like button. And for any creator that you enjoy their content, not just me, always hit the like button on every video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you hit the like button on a video, it helps that video appear higher in the search results. When somebody goes into YouTube and searches for something, it boosts that video's position in the search results. So if I get 1,000 views and no likes, I'll appear in the search results. But if I get 1,000 views and 100 likes, I'll be higher up in the search results, and it'll help me out massively, because then it'll elevate me in the search results. So whoever you watch, whatever content, always like every video regardless. Even if you only give it a quick look, just like it anyway, because you're helping out your creator. It's a way to help out creators that you enjoy. It doesn't cost you a penny. Always like and subscribe. But always like, basically. And hit the notification bell. When you do that, click on all. And that makes sure you don't miss anything. Although the notifications are a bit do-whack at the moment, but never mind. Do-whack? That's not even a real phrase, Sam. That's not a real word, Sam. This ain't the Lincoln Tunnel, Sam. Oh, I've got Sam and Max in my head now. All I've got now is Sam and Max in the car, and and Max saying, "Do you mind if I drive, Sam?" And, no. "Do you mind if I drive, Sam?" And Sam says, "Not if you don't mind me clawing at the dash and chewing like..." Oh, I'll get it right. "Do you mind if I drive, Sam?" And Sam says, "Not if you don't mind me clawing at the dash and screaming like a cheerleader." And then they go into somewhere and he's like, "This ain't the Lincoln Tunnel, Sam." I'm thinking of the game, obviously, not the animated series. Sam and Max, the best. Absolutely the best. Bad Day on the Moon. If you don't know who Sam and Max are, you've missed out massively in the 1990s. Late 80s, early 90s. Massively. Where have you been? Some of the funniest comic stuff ever. Only very short-lived and very short run, but some of the funniest stuff you'll ever read. Right, quick look at chat. Ooh, sniffles. Makes me feel guilty that I made a Baneblade out of an old toy tank, but I suppose it's just for me and there are Warhammer bits all over it. It balances out, especially as I'd never sell it. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, we're just making what we're making. If you cobble together something, you know, out of the toy tank and some other bits and bobs, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not stealing anything from anybody. You know, that's just using leftover bits. That's fine. Because, you know, if you want a Baneblade, an actual Baneblade, you just go and buy a Baneblade. So, that's fine. A tornado killed my local Games Workshop store. Oh no, said Dan Kramer. That's really bad. So it's only Warhammer stuff now, said Dan Kramer. It always has been. Unless, of course, you go to Goblin Gaming. If you're in the EU or UK, you can go to Goblin Gaming, and that's lots of other stuff as well. But the reason I'll limit it to them is purely because if you stick to Warhammer stuff, because it's Warhammer Sunday, if you stick to Warhammer stuff, you're not paying shipping, you're not paying tax. If you win £500, you've got £500 to play with. You've not got £300 plus £100 import duty and £75 tax. And you see what I mean? It's just easier. Also, it's a nightmare. If I do it through Games Workshop, anything goes wrong, it's easy to fix. If I order through and others tiny little store in Japan somewhere that sells Gunpla and your order gets lost, we're all screwed because you've now got nothing. I've given 500 quid away that's gone towards nothing. And yeah. There's no comeback. If I order something through GW and it disappears in transit, I've at least got a route to get that sorted. It's protection and it's saving money for you guys. Always was though. Yeah, he said, Beyond Hope says, if you're in the UK, you could probably twist Fox's arm to allow non-GW products if you choose Goblin. Yeah, absolutely. If especially if you're in the UK, then you've only got a little bit of a shipping charge and no import duties. You can, if you're able to order from Goblin Gaming as a norm, then you can do that, because then you can do all kinds of stuff. Malifaux, Conflict 47, Judge Dredd, they've got Pokemon, they've got Magic the Gathering, it's all kinds of good stuff. Wasteland Warfare, anything you want. But in that case, you've got to consider, if you're outside the UK, you've got shipping and import. You've got import duties. You could spend £300 there, but you might spend 150 quid import to your country. Tax and duties, which has nothing to do with Goblin or with anything else. It's your customs and excise. So it's really trying to make sure you get as much bang for your buck is more than anything else. Right, let's have a quick look. It's a very dangerous thing, a fox with a decision. Wars have started like that, and Beyond Hope says, but Dave, isn't your position, along with Dad, Chris and maybe Paul, to ensure that Fox is never put in a position where he has to decide on anything? We, the viewing audience, rely on you guys. Don't rely on Paul. Paul will happily put me in a position where everything goes wrong every single time. This is the man that will instinctively push me off a ledge regardless. Real life and video game, doesn't matter, he'll push me off a ledge. So don't count Paul in that sense of responsibility. The trick is trying to make him think it's his idea. It's always my idea. What are you talking about? Beyond Hope says, Chris, how much of that is from seeing how Gemma does it? Chris says, I don't know what you mean. Who, what, how, why? Not many people know who Sam and Max are. Sounds like you were playing Sam and Max Hit the Road, Route 66. Yes, that quote is from Sam and Max Hit the Road, but I've read the comic books for a long time before that. You have to go back 40 years to find non-Warhammer products in Games Workshop. You could buy Lord of the Rings stuff if you wanted to, or Sigmar. It doesn't have to be 40k, of course. If you're ordering through GW, it could be Sigmar, it could be Lord of the Rings, God help us. And you can order Forge World if you want. I better get the gravy, says Dad, because he's ordered some KFC. Don't talk to Dad about gravy. Right, so let's get this little fellow glued together. We wanna be. I'm quite. You know what? Do you know why I love you guys? Do you know why I love you guys so much? Because you know why you are the best followers, and I'm pimping to my audience here. But do you know one of the reasons that you guys are the best is that air keep going out of shot and nobody's complained for a start, which is brilliant. Is quite simply, and this is, I'm not even paying attention. What am I even doing? I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just randomly putting parts together without knowing what they are. One of the reasons you guys are so damn awesome is because I can't imagine anyone else bringing up something happened. But Hazardous Blue subscribed. Thank you very much, Hazardous Blue. It doesn't tell me on my list of things for some reason. Why does it not tell me on there? Hazardous Blue. Thank you very much, Hazardous Blue. Make sure to hit the notification bell. Yes, I can't imagine anyone else on other channels bringing up a monkey poop fight subject like recasts and not having the chat just devolve into a monkey poop fight. Yet here am I bring up the forbidden subject that I was talking about it and regretting it as I was talking about it, thinking this is probably a bad idea. And you know what? it prompted a couple of good questions, and then we moved on. And that's why you guys are the best community, because you're not idiots. There's no delicate way to put it. You're not idiots. You're mature enough to say, yeah, there you go. Interesting point, valid point, fair point, well made, and then you move on. Brilliant. I love it. I love you guys to bits. You are the best. You am the best. As the saying doesn't actually go. There, that, and that. Do. Gluings. Glutacular. I have to say, having played Sam and Max Hit the Road way back in the day, if you don't know what that is, it's one of the classic examples of a LucasArts point-and-click adventure game, circa late 90s, early 2000s. LucasArts were the masters of the point-and-click, like, you know, Monkey Island and Sam and Max. Not least of the fact that the guy that wrote Sam and Max and drew it actually worked at LucasArts in the gaming department. So if back in the day, if you bought Dark Forces, for example, in the mid-90s, it would have sometimes a little Sam and Max comic in there, because he worked there. And they eventually just got around to making a game. And I have to say, from that point on, the voices in that game were the correct voices for Sam and Max. And when the animated series came out, I was really not. I was like, oh, they're not quite. Oh, they're not quite right. Oh, they were similar, but not quite right. I mean, they had the same. You know, Sam had the gruff, deep voice, and Max had the kind of hyperkinetic-y voice, and it was like, yeah, it works, but it's not quite right. And then the Telltale games came out. If you want a more modern take on it, Telltale Games did a few Sam and Max games in the style of the original LucasArts games, but with a Telltale twist. They weren't fantastic. They were alright. But yeah, their voices again were not quite. And I'm like, it's not the voices from the first game. It's not right. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, Sam. I love those voices. It never really worked after that. The voices from the animated series. The animated series was an Nelvana animated series of Sam and Max. It was all right. It was catering to a totally different audience. I mean, it was by the people that did Raccoons, so you can't go wrong. But it wasn't quite true Sam and Max. They added a couple of characters, but it was all right. It was equally raucous, but not quite as perhaps adult. Right, we'll get this guy on his base. Base! How low can you go? About as low as this little figure. Remember, as always, I'm using the Tamiya thick glue, the regular cement, to glue him to the base. A little bit of a wiggle around. Remember, I always use the thick glue when it's anything load-bearing or anything that has to be stuck in place. I'm missing a part, though. I've not put his backpack on yet. You spoon fox. So if I'm doing things like arms or legs or like sticking them on a base, I always do the thick glue first, the thick Tamiya cement, purely because it's got some stick to it. Well, I didn't leave it long and didn't put enough on. If I just did extra thin, that would have happened anyway, because I've used the fat cement. Put it back on there again. I didn't leave him long enough before I put the thin cement on it. It dissolved the fat cement. If I stick him down with the fat cement, it's a bit sticky. It's got some stick to it. It's not quite as aggressive plastic weld cement as the other thin stuff, but it's got more sticky stick to it. So I can do that. If I used extra thin, that would just come off. So I'll give him a second, then I'll use the thin glue. What's chat doing? We expect nothing less, model making guru. Nobody's paying attention. This is why nobody picked up on the comment, on the conversation. The Chaos Spawn are great fun. Having to choose which spikes, tentacles, protrusions to use is the hardest bit, says Osric. I've not got that far yet. Fox, we're just amazed that you get anything done on a Sunday 3-hour stream that's about making things. Yeah, pretty much. It's a bit like the e-model stream isn't really about model making, even though it's a model retailer. Same with this is about Warhammer, but we're not really making anything because I'm just talking to you guys. Fate of Atlantis, great game. Don't remember that one. Beat it back before you could just Google the answers. I remember playing Space Ace on the Amiga. How flashback is that? I played Flashback on the Amiga. Day of the Tentacle. Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders was my favourite LucasArts title back in the day. There's Dan. Oh, I've got a sniffly nose. Oh. Beyond Hope says there was a racing game on the Amstrad CPC 46466128. You don't get computer names like that anymore. Called Full Throttle. Circuit based with AI opponents. I even called into the Amstrad magazine to complain about their review. One of my favourite games from back in the day was Grandia 2 and Abe's Odyssey. Hi, I'm Abe. It was made with our bones. I used to like Abe's Odyssey. I loved it, but I didn't really like the game. But I used to love Sligs. I've talked about Sligs before. Sligs were brilliant. Get 'em. Get 'em. Used to love Sligs. I've used loads of thick glue on the stomper, says Dad. It's sticky as it falls apart, yes. I thought the e-model stream was a catering stream. It's more like a, like food program. Fate of Atlantis with the Indiana Jones point and click. Oh yeah. I had an Indiana Jones game on Amiga that I seem to remember didn't actually work because you get a little way in and it would just kind of crash. And no matter what you did, it just wouldn't. It was fatally bugged. You bought this game that you couldn't actually play. Back in the days before patching. So you see now I'm putting the extra thin on, but it's not making everything fall off, he says, hopefully. Because the thick stodgy glue has had time to set a little bit. So, the thin glue, if you stick something together with... When I say fat glue, I just mean the regular normal Tamiya cement. When I say thin glue, I mean regular Tamiya extra thin. This stuff will, if you stick something together with this and then put that on straight away, often than not, it will just fall apart because this will dissolve that. So give it a couple of seconds, give it half a minute or a minute or two. Then go ahead and do some sticky. I've not put his backpack, I've not even cut his backpack out. Spoon. Part number 10. Cachet number 10, please. Part number 10 is there. Let's get this. Let's do this. I can do this. I can do this. Run over by his own car. Oops, knocking the camera. Run over by his own car. What a way to go. Too soon? Maybe. Vic 20, Frogger, says Dad. Okay, here we go then. List in the chat. Go back as far as you can remember. Your journey into computers and video games. What I mean by that is not specifically video games, but mostly video games. In fact, let's make it video games. List off your roll call of devices. For example, I would say started in the early 70s with a Binatone Pong console, which had like Pong and squash and football on it, but it was all like just variations of two sticks going like that and the dot going backwards. It was all basically that, and it had the switches that were like, and it had the little paddles. It was orange and black, and it was brilliant. And we found it a few years ago and tried to get it working, and it kind of did a little bit. So I started with that. It was a Binatone Pong unit, and then after that, we had an Atari 400 in the very early 80s, I think, or I'm in the late 70s, early 80s. An Atari 400. I remember my mum saying to me, right, we've got a choice now. We can either go on holiday to somewhere foreign in a sunny place, and I'm like 6, I'm like, I don't care. We can go on holiday to somewhere, or we can get a computer. I'm like, yeah, get a computer, yeah. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. It was 6 or something. So anyway, we've got an Atari 400. That lasted a few years, and I wasn't really into games at this point, but I'd mess about with it. My brother had he was the techie one. We even had the Atari 400 assembler editor cartridge, which I don't think I actually ever used, but we had it. So that was the Atari 400. And then in later years, I had a ZX Spectrum, but only briefly. You know, 1K memory, big fat 1K memory. I think everybody in the UK at some point had a ZX Spectrum there. It was kind of in the 80s as a kid, you were required. ZX Spectrum. Towards the end of the 80s, I got a Spectrum 48. 48K. All the colours. And I have memories of playing a game that I had called Lotus Turbo Esprit Zoom Thingy. And it was like a black and white, almost like vector graphics, but not vector graphics. It was like black and white. You had little stickmen walking. You could drive around. You had to like take bandit cars off the road. It was quite good anyway. School days and games like that. Spectrum 48K. And then, I think 1989 or 1990, my dad got me an Amiga 500. Yes, for Christmas one year. I was well made up. I don't know where my dad got all this money from. We weren't that wealthy or anything. I asked for an Amiga and I got an Amiga. So I got an Amiga. And that lasted me for a few years. But again, at this point, I still wasn't massively into playing games. I had the novelty of it, and I had it in my room, and I'd play games on it occasionally, but I'd play them for maybe an hour and then just go off and do something else. Although, for some reason, I got really hooked on Spy Hunter on the Spectrum 48K. I spent hours playing Spy Hunter, and man, that game was terrible, but I'd spend hours playing it. I even redrew the cover art that was on the cassette, because games came on cassette. I even redrew the cover art at school as part of my GCSE. I used to play Spy Hunter on that. But I was still not massively into games at this point. When I got the Amiga, that was more about using art software like Photon Paint and Deluxe Paint. Sergeant Bones is recalling now, because we had a conversation earlier. Deluxe Paint was the one I can't remember. Deluxe Paint had the picture of Tutankhamun on the front. I think there's about the Atlantic has just landed on our back garden, by the way. It seems a bit hazardous out there. That was more about using, the first time I could use a computer to draw. Because to me, Photon Paint was like, wow, I can draw on a computer. And using things like Octamed to write music. Because at this point, I got my first synthesizer, I think around about then. So I was just starting to write music, compose stuff, simple stuff. And I was playing with tunes on Octamed and other sound tracker type software to write music on the Amiga. And that lasted me a few years. And then Mum got a PC in the mid-90s. That was for her to use. Like, she had a little office at the front bedroom, was a little office, and she used to use that. But I then snuck in and played Quake and stuff like that. Quake and the Blob. Games like that. And again, that wasn't really anything major. I got into Dark Forces and played that religiously. Sort of 90, what was that, 4 or 5 when it came out. I thought Dark Forces was brilliant at the time. Go back and play it now, it's like awful, but the Mouldy Crow. So I got into that. I played Quake for quite a while. But you have to remember, when I was playing things like Quake and they were like 340 by 480 graphics and stuff, and it was terrible, 340 by 680 by 3, whatever it was, really lumpy graphics, horrible graphics. At the time, it was mind-bending because it was the best ever. And I do have memories of when my friend got Quake 2 and he had a better PC than my mum did. And it was like, wow, that looks photorealistic. This is Quake 2, which is not photorealistic. But at the time, we didn't know better. Then Mama Fox got a PlayStation 2. I don't know why, but Dad said, I'm going to buy your mum a PlayStation 2. Do you think that would be a good idea? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. Does she like video games? We had an N64 for a little while that Mum played. I didn't really play it. Then she got a PlayStation and she played Monopoly on it for years. Then I got my first games console, which was an Xbox, original Xbox in 2001. And that's when I got into games. Got playing Halo. LAN parties, going around to your mate's house playing Halo. That got me into games. And then from then it was an Xbox 360, then an Xbox One. Then I upgraded that to a One X. I have had a PS3. And we had a PlayStation 2 as well. We had a PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 was Mama Fox's. The PlayStation 1 was mine. Fond memories of playing the terrible Duke Nukem games on the PlayStation. Duke Nukem Land of the Babes. God, that was terrible. Playing Red Faction on the PlayStation 2. Give it up, Miner! With its mind-bending at the time destructible environments, which weren't that destructible. They were just occasionally you could shoot a bit. The only thing I remember at Red Faction was give it up, Miner! And also playing Half-Life on the PlayStation 2, because I hadn't played it on PC. That was good. So I've had a PlayStation 3. I didn't play it a lot. I can't be doing with the PlayStation controller. It's not comfortable for my hands at all. So I got a PlayStation 3 purely to play The Last of Us, and was glad that I did because it was fantastic. And I played a few other things, but in the end I got a thing so I could use my Xbox controller on the PlayStation. Heresy, I know, but hey, deal with it. And then after a while I didn't really use it that much because at the time the 360 was better, so I just kind of gave it to my friend Busby to play with. Then I got my One and my One X. I'm quite happy, and now obviously the next step will be later this year. Save up my pennies, and by save up my pennies I mean pay off my Argos. So at the end of this year I can nip to Argos and pick myself up an Xbox Series X. Yes, the next generation. And you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? I make a prediction now and here and now, within 6 months, in fact no, before the Xbox Series X has even launched, or the PlayStation 5, I predict that Bethesda will announce the Skyrim special edition of Skyrim, specifically tailored for Xbox One X and PlayStation 5. Now with 8K visuals. Yeah, because they're not going to pass up a chance to have another version of Skyrim out there. So I make that prediction. Hold me to it. I make that prediction. A new version of Skyrim. Not a new version, but another remaster of Skyrim will come out when the new consoles come out. So I reckon E3 this year, Bethesda will show Starfield. I don't think we'll get it this year, but I think they'll show it this year. And given the absolute monkey poop fight of the last couple of games, I don't think it's anything worth shouting about. I'm really sad about that. I think they'll show Starfield, and I think they will announce another version of Skyrim coming to the Xbox Generation X, whatever the fuck, I can't remember what it's called now. Series X, and the other ones. So yeah, that's the future. But that's my role from a Binatone Pong machine, which is brilliant. But I always wish we had an Atari 2600, but we never had one. All the way up to Xbox One X. There you go. Right. Let's see what chat's saying. So yeah, what is your path through computers and gaming? Where have you gone? Now, computers wise, it's like I've had computers. There's no point saying I've had this and I've had this because they're just computers, like PCs. So you can't really go into detail because most people don't know, but it's just a PC. But anyway, oh yes, I did have. Because David Sanders says you forgot the Amstrad 664. I did have at one point some crappy Amstrad console that we had. We went to some. Okay, David Sanderson will know where the Cresta Court Hotel is. You'll know this, Dave. You'll know where this was. There was one of these things where somebody goes to this local hotel and they say, right, we're going to have this big auction where we sell stuff. And it's basically just knock-off crap that these guys have got in a warehouse and they sell it dirt cheap. And you think you're getting something brilliant, but you're not. You're getting crap. But you get carried away. So me and my dad went for no reason at all, just for fun. And we came out with this, like, for £10, this Amstrad Games console. This is like in the late 90s. And it was absolute garbage. It had like 5 games. And one of them was a racing game that was just terrible. And one of them was just something else that didn't work at all. And we played it for about 10 minutes and put it on the shelf and it just got lost. But yeah, there was some Amstrad nonsense. It was terrible. Forgot about that. Beyond Hope says, Fox, a sad admission. I watched University Challenge last week and one was a picture question. Showed a picture of a Commodore 64 and the students were asked to give it its name and numeric designation. Oh dear. I bet they didn't get it. Did they get it? I never had a Commodore C64 or a VIC-20. My friend had a Dragon 32, which had a Star Trek game with a light gun. It's terrible. But yeah, I never had a VIC-20 or a C64. or any of the Amiga was the first ever Commodore I got. My friend, one of my friends had an Atari ST, but it was like Xbox and PlayStation all over again, but before Xbox and PlayStation. We were obviously natural rivals. Let's have a look. By the way, I saw the other day that you remember the company that was bringing out the new C64 Mini, the little tiny one. That'd be like a little thing that played C64 games. It was like this big and it had a keyboard and everything. They've actually now released a full-size C64, basically. It's a modern. It uses an Arduino board, but it's basically a modern C64 with HDMI out and like smart card slots and stuff. Apparently, they're pretty good. Let's have a look. Let's see what people are saying. Beyond Hope says, still got a VIC-20 in the attic and an Amiga 500. I had an Amiga 500 that I think I sold or gave it away to someone. And then about early 2000s, somebody I worked with had a suitcase with an Amiga and all the accessories and just loaded games. So I bought it for 50 quid. I played on that for a bit and it brought back all the memory. Because I still had loads of my old discs. And I don't know what happened to that. I don't know where it went. I may have given it away. But I found, this is a shameful admission. I'm going to move the camera back a bit. Shameful admission. When I set up this workbench, before this workbench was here, it was all recording equipment like synthesizers and 8-tracks and stuff. There was a box that some of my equipment was on, and inside that was an Atari, the Atari 400 from my childhood with the tape deck and everything and all the accessories. And I think it got thrown out for some reason. I don't think we realised that we should have kept it because it would be worth quite a bit now. It's like we threw it out. I'm like, oh God, all the regretful things I ever did. Yeah. Paul Di Tommaso, quick question on the model size, says superglue or epoxy to attach resin parts to plastic model that will hold up over time. I would say epoxy. Superglue is fine, but over time it can degrade, it can crack and fade away, or if you knock it, bits can fall off because it's strong, but it can't take torsional shock. If I glued that with superglue and went dink, it could potentially fall apart. Also, if that was super glued together and I put it in the freezer and went like that, they would all just fall apart. So super glue it does break down over time, whereas epoxy, once it's stuck. But then again, if it's little parts, you're going to get a bit of a fiddle there, so. Let's have a look. Old Nintendo, says James Larimore. Which one? Details, new details. Sinclair ZX81 with its 1K memory got a 16K RAM pack, which doubled as a RAM pack, there's a name, I forgot that, which doubles an on-off switch, as it was so loose. Yeah. Horace goes skiing on the ZX81. Oh, Manic Miner. Let me know if I'm focused, by the way, because I moved the camera. I don't know if I'm in focus now or not. Super glue, as long as it's not banged about in gameplay, super glue can shatter, says Beyond Hope. Yeah, super glue is durable, but I had... I'll show it. I can show you, because I had a clear up earlier on. Oh no, I can't show you. Can I show you? No. I had a resin model of the USS Reliant that I had, and I built super glue, put it in the loft for about 4 years, brought it back out, and it just all fallen apart because super glue it degrades. If it's something you're going to play on a tabletop, absolutely don't use super glue. Right, here we go. David Sanderson, Amstrad 46480s, Amiga 600 HD 90s, various Apple Macs in the 2000s, and then also a PS2 and a PS4. Cool. David Butch, that model, says Amstrad 464, then a ZX Spectrum, NES Super, NES Mega Drive, Mega CD, oh yeah, the Mega CD, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and then home-built PCs. James Ryan clarifies, old Nintendo, Super Nintendo, she had a SNES, and then a PlayStation 1, then 2, then a PC, then Nintendo Wii, then Nintendo 64, and then back to PC. And my cousin's old BBC Micro says Rolux Illusion, after saying Pong console, Atari 2600, ooh, you had the Atari 800 XL. I was always jealous of people that had the Atari 800 because you had 2 cartridge slots. So Pong console, Atari 2600, Atari 800, Atari 800 XL, Sega Mega Drive, Sega, and the cousin's old BBC Micro. I was always amazed that even into the early 2000s, I couldn't find a good piece of software to do voice synthesis. On one of my tracks called Mogalicious, I have a synthesized voice at the start doing a bit of a Stephen Hawking sound-alike, and it took me a long time to find software that would do that on PC. This is in the sort of early 2000s, whereas I had memories in the early 80s of being at school, and the BBC Micro B had a built-in thing where you could tell it to say something and it just said it. Wow, and it was 20 years later and they still didn't have decent voice software. Let's have a look. Best game I ever played, says David Sanderson. In retrospect, was probably Settlers. James Lorimer also had a couple of Game Boy Colors, DSs, and things like that. Oh, we had a Sega Game Gear as well, I have to say. Beyond Hope says, list them: ZX81, ZX Spectrum, 48K, VIC-20, Amiga 500 with an extra 512K memory card. I had that. Extra to make up to a gig. 30 meg external hard drive. Smart, Alec. I just had a disk drive. Amstrad CPC 6128, then first PC in 1985. Nim does a list of games: Duck Hunt, Super Mario, Mario Paint, Doom, Pokemon Red, Pokemon Silver, skip a few years, Diablo 1 and 2, Pokemon Heart Gold, more Pokemon, Minecraft, Persona 3, Torchlight, and now Pokemon Sword. Have you not played Persona 4? Seriously, play Persona 4. It's the best game ever made by anybody ever. And I challenge any bloke not to play Persona 4 and not fall in love with Chie, because Chie is awesome, and I would marry Chie. She likes food and kung fu. What more do you want? Persona 4. If you've got a PSP, Persona 4 Golden is slightly better because it's got a few more gameplay additions that make it better to play. David Sanderson, now Game Boy and Game Gear. Yeah, we had a Game Gear. Mordraka, Atari 480, a Commodore 64, NES, SNES, PC 286, NES 64, PS1, PC 386, PC 486, you're going up through the ages, PS2, PC, PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One. I got gravy, woohoo, says Dad. Good girl. Let's have a look. Beyond Hope says, left school in 84 and went on a youth training course, spent 10 weeks in a computer game shop, so played a lot of current games and testing the tapes when they were returned faulty. Faulty in quotes. Duke Nukem is awesome, says Paul Di Tommaso. Not on PlayStation 1, like Duke Nukem and Land of the Babes. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Original Doom, the first and the best. Play Doom. Doom and Quake. I've seen the Xbox X, looks like a brick. The Xbox Series X. It looks like a PC tower, but smaller, basically. It's no different to a stand-up PC tower. It's a bit of a pain that it's not going to fit in my cabinet where all the games consoles go, because they're designed like that, not like that, but we'll figure it out. The GX 4000, says David Sanderson. That may have been what I got, the Amstrad one I had, maybe. Oh dear, you asked, says Stupid. I had a NASCOM home built with a teletype keyboard and a black and white 12-inch TV. Wow. King Flash Rose Gaming says, will you play Halo Infinite? I suspect I will. When I first got my first Xbox, I was a massive, massive Halo fan. I mean, absolutely, totally obsessed with it. Interesting side story, I went to the chip shop 2 days ago, and I've got from the early 2000, from about 2003, I bought a long-sleeved Bungie 7th column t-shirt, long-sleeve t-shirt. It's got the Bungie 7th column logo on it with the fist with the lightning bolts. And I've had that now for 18 years? Maybe 18 years. And in all that time, nobody's ever said anything. They've never recognised it. And yet I walk into my chip shop 2 days ago and the kid behind the counter, who's about 18, said, that Bungie 7th column? I'm like, whoa. The fact that it's like 20 years ago and he wasn't even born then, I was quite impressed. Yeah, I was a massive Halo fan, although it tapered off a little bit. I really got into Halo and I really got into LAN, going around to my mate's house with a couple of Xboxes and 2 TVs and pizza and beer. The whole LAN party thing. When it went onto Xbox Live and it was online multiplayer, I kind of went away from it. I wasn't that impressed with Halo 2 visually as I was with the first one, which is weird, but it's the truth. Halo 3, again, over time I just got less and less engaged with it, and I started to fade away, and then late in like 2008 or 9 I got Fallout 3, and then from then on I got more into the open worldy type stuff. But in the sort of 2001 to 2005 or 6, I was massive Halo fan. I've kind of fallen away from first person shooters now though. Just strict for FPS, for more the open world, like Skyrims, Fallouts, and that kind of stuff. So yes, I probably will play Halo Infinite. I'll see what it is first, because I played Halo 4 and it was like, I played Halo 5 and I'm like, oh really? Halo and Halo 2, Halo 3, I love the characters. I got invested in the character. Halo 4, don't remember anything about the story. Halo 5, I don't remember anything about the story. I don't really care. It was like, wow. Halo 2, I can quote you lines from Halo. I can quote you lines from Halo 2. I knew all of it. I played it so much. Halo 4 and 5, I can't remember to tell you what happened. I can't even remember what the storyline was. Nonsense. Apart from, the only thing I can tell you is that the guy that played the Didact is the voice actor that plays a lot of the Dunmer in Skyrim. The one that tries to do the dodgy English, I know what I want to do with my life because I'm a Dunmer. He does that strange English accent that's not really because he's American. Same voice actor. I kind of recognise voice actors. It's a really weird thing I do. Does it really matter what the console looks like? It's the internet that makes the system. Absolutely not. I couldn't care less what the new Xbox looks like. It's no interest. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to me on a practical sense that I can't fit it in my entertainment cabinet. I'll find somewhere to put it, but I don't really care. Don't really care. Stewpot says, then like Fox, I had a Commodore 64. This is after his home-built thing with a Teletype keyboard. Commodore 64, Dragon 32 at one stage, and Amstrad. Then I built loads of PCs over the years. Now MSI Games laptop, i7 processor, and Xbox 360 and Xbox One waiting for next. My first experience of a computer ever, I must have been about 5 or 6. And I went to my friend's house, and his dad obviously worked in computing in some way, because on the table in their house was, I don't know what it was now, but it was probably something like a pet or something like that. And I remember sitting there, and we drew a rocket ship, because all we had was a cursor. It was like the screen was there, and it was green screen, monochrome, monocolor monitor, and we drew a space rocket using ASCII, like lines and stuff, because we didn't know anything about computer. We were like 6 years old. Wow, what's that? Oh, look at that. I type this key and it appears on the screen. Wow, it was amazing. So we drew a space, and that's my first ever memory of a computer, like a desktop computer, not like a games console. So there you go. I'm taking this headset off. That's my first memory of that. Amstrad console was the GX4000. Yeah, it was garbage. Absolute garbage. Powerwolf says JB Weld. This is about whether you use epoxy glue or super glue. JB Weld plus pinning equals your mini is not coming apart. Also says played an NES plus Mega Drive before getting the SNES for my first console, then an Amiga 500, PS1, Game Boy Color, PS2, PSP, PS3, PC, Wii, PS4, 3DS, Wii U, Xbox One S, mini SNES, and they played a lot more. I didn't get a PSP, but I did get a PSP Vita. I really wanted a PSP. What did I get? I think I got a PSP, and I hated the fact it had one stick, and then I got a PSP Vita, even though I never really played anything on them. I got a PS Vita, and I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever held in my hands. The screen was fantastic, the OLED screen. I used to get it out of the box, and I'd open it up, and I'd be like, oh, it was a beautiful thing to behold. It was shiny and clean, and the screen was bright, and it was fantastic, and there was nothing to play on it. And I'd put it back in the hard case and let out a sigh, and then put it back in the hard case and leave it for another 6 weeks and try it again. And it was frustrating things like the power lead wasn't quite long enough for me to sit and play with it plugged in. It was like, oh, and then I lent it to my friend after a while. I played Persona 4 Golden on that, and then I lent it to a friend. She's still got it at the moment, so yeah. So a thing of beauty that never really saw much use. Where are we up to? I watched recently all 16 seasons of Red vs. Blue. Yeah, I remember the first 3 or 4 seasons. After that, I kind of faded away from it. But just, Caboose, Church, so funny. I remember, I think it's season 2 or 3 if you put the DVD in your DVD drive, if you get the DVD versions, the series of it, and you just leave it there on the front menu. Every now and then, one of the bad guy characters will come past saying, "You foolish fool, what are you doing? Watch the videos." Ooh, and he'd come back and shout at you for not watching the videos. I used to love Red vs. Blue. The tank, the lady in the tank that Caboose thought was in love with. One point he's chasing and he's like, running, running, running. Oh, Caboose. Hi, Fox. I remember Lemmings being very addictive back in the day, says Timber. Yeah, I had that on my Amiga, but I was never really into it. Beyond Hope says, I must be unique. Apart from a Binatone games machine in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe the same as mine, black and orange, maybe? Black and orange with the slidey buttons. I've never owned a games console and I've only ever played Halo on the PC. You need to get a games console and play games. Yes, a pet was an Apple. I have used one. Atari Lynx. No, I didn't have an Atari Lynx. My friend had an Atari Lynx. And the only game he had was that jet fighter, the fighter plane one. A friend from school had a Neo Geo. It was 100 levels of awesome. Yeah, because in those days, the Neo Geo was like arcade game level graphics. Sheila was a big favourite of Red versus Blue. Yeah, the tank. Sheila the tank. The lady that living in the tank. Let's have a look. Evening all, says Beck Storm. Welcome back. All I hear is game talk. Been thinking about getting into fighting games these days. Bored of FPSs. I'm never into fighting games. Fighting games, driving games, never got into them at all. I was a big FPS person, but then, like I say, when I found Fallout 3, and from there got into like Skyrim, and then Fallout 4, and now I'm on Elite Dangerous, and some other games where they've got a bit of open world. I dabble in other games occasionally, like, you know, I try games that come out, but 99% of the time I'll go back to playing Skyrim or Fallout 4 or Elite, just because the other games that come out just bore me after a little while, especially just linear first-person shooters. I'm like, I did have a thing for World War II shooters, like, you know, Medal of Honor, Frontline. Loved it. Medal of Honor Airborne, I actually quite enjoyed. Everybody hated that. I thought it was pretty good. It was shooting Nazis. What? There's nothing better. They're the perfect video game villain, Nazis, because you never feel bad about shooting them. But, you know, well, there haven't been really many good ones lately. I don't play your Battlefields and stuff. Can't be bothered with all that crap. They don't do anything for me. Medal of Honor Frontline was always my favourite. Going back and playing it, though, because I played it when it was on original Xbox, and it was like Halo and Medal of Honor Frontline. Perfect. Going back and playing it now, though, I did when I got I think it was included. It came on backwards compatibility with the Xbox One, I think. When it appeared on that, I tried playing it again, and you really can't go back. I know they released it on PS4 as a special edition with improved graphics and stuff, and I have to be honest, I tried it. I was at PS3, I think it was, and I tried it, and it looked better on the original back Xbox version than it did on the PS3 updated version. But going back and trying to play it without like iron sights and stuff, it was yeah. But it's still great. But you have to really get into the mindset of actually playing the game in the way the game was played. I don't know. Call of Duty Big Red one on PS2 was great. I was into the original sort of Call of Duty 1 and 2s for a while, but again they just kind of faded away into the multiplayer side is more interesting than more important than the single player. I think Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare, kind of was the start of them just focusing more on the multiplayer and than the single player. So nowadays they don't have any interest for me at all, those kind of games. I quite liked it. Airborne was all right. I liked Airborne. I liked the way you could lean around corners and stuff, and the sound of the weapons. That was all right. But yeah, nothing since then has really, FPS wise. I've tried a few things. Not everything tickles my fancy. Right, what are we on? It is 5:48. I've done 4 dudes. Hey, I've done all this work today. Look, I've done all this. Yeah, I know. I've done 2. Shut up. Not everybody was here at the start. They don't know. Shut up. Don't break the illusion. Right. So I built those 2. No, I built 2 of those. I built today. That one and that one. I built these 2 today. We've still got to do the fetid bloat drone. And the what have we got? Fetid bloat drone and the Lord Contagion, who's like the Lord Contagion character. So what we'll do next week, we'll carry on. We'll probably get, you know what I'm like, I'll probably get the fetid bloat drone done. That'll be it. So yeah. Beyond Hope Powerwolf says Frontline was a masterpiece and the music was very, very good. I actually would agree with that, because Frontline, when it came out, Allied Assault came out just before on the PC, and Frontline came out on consoles. It was like the console version, so it was stripped down a bit. But they were both kind of absolute cutting edge at the time. The whole D-Day beach landing scene in Frontline, the first on Allied Assault, when I played Allied Assault, I had to go outside and like calm down. I'd never been anything like it. It was so intense. I mean, looking back at it now, it's kind of cheesy, but it was like so intense. But the soundtrack, Michael Giacchino's Frontline sound, Medal of Honor Frontlines, is one of my favourites, and I have it on my playlist today. It's one of my favourite all-time soundtracks of any movie, video game, or anything. Sadly, Giacchino has never quite got as good as that since. I think that was his absolute crowning achievement, was the soundtrack to Medal of Honor Frontline. The soundtrack music for Allied Assault was all right, but a bit wallpapery. The music that came after that, European Assault, wasn't Michael Giacchino. That was Chris, some other guy, the guy that did the soundtrack for Black. That was all right with a few good pieces, but mostly wallpaper music. Medal of Honor Frontline, just absolute divine. Every piece on that soundtrack is fantastic. Manor House Rally is one of my favourite pieces. It's just, if you get a chance, go and listen to the soundtrack for Medal of Honor Frontline. It was the early days when you started to get full orchestral soundtracks for video games, which up until that point were seen as silly, childish things, and yet here's a movie level soundtrack, literally like an hour and a half of movie quality full orchestra score with thumping themes and leitmotifs and things. Oh, it was amazing stuff. Go and listen to it. Do myself a favour, go and listen to the soundtrack. Unless you're one of the people that thinks soundtrack means 10 licensed songs, because then you won't get it. It's full orchestra, you won't get it. I don't like the way your soundtracks now, you get like, here's a soundtrack to a movie, what is it? It's 10 songs by different people. Oh, don't care then, not interested. Soundtrack, yeah. I think everything Giacchino's done since then has been a downhill slide, because he's got simpler and simpler. When he did the soundtrack for the latest one, I've just said it a minute ago, Airborne, Medal of Honor Airborne, he returned to it to do the soundtrack for that, and it was a pale imposter. It had some of the themes returning, but it was kind of phoned in. It grew on me after a while, but it was kind of phoned in. You mean score, not soundtrack? It's still technically a soundtrack, but yeah, score. But yeah, you're scoring the soundtrack for a movie. Technically, it's right, but I know what you mean. But yeah, it was a pale imitator of Frontline. It was not as interesting. But yeah, he's not done anything as good as that since. So go and listen to it. Let's have a look. Illusion Broken, Deck Storm. Nothing tops Arnhem Nights. Oh god, yeah. I remember reading where some of the pieces on Frontline are quite somber and almost like choral style. And I remember reading the producers of the game were like, is this going to work? Because, we'd make an action game and you're doing this weird, falsetto lead voice kind of mournful music for Arnhem, which is a carnage and disaster zone anyway. Just trust me, it'll work. And then when you play it in the game, yeah, it's... Or the music when you land in Operation Market Garden. It's fantastic. Fantastic. Right. Anyway, enough. Yes, stop distracting me with talk of Michael Giacchino's fantastic Frontline soundtrack, which he has not bettered since, and which nobody has come anywhere near close. The only soundtrack I would say that has been listened to more by me is probably Destiny, which, take out a few of the clunkers, is a really good soundtrack. Anyway, I think that's going to do us. We haven't had a stream problem. Nothing's crashed. Nothing's fallen over. I need to make sure my buttons still work. Hang on. Are my buttons still working? Yeah, my God, even my buttons are still working. They've not fallen asleep. Well, thank you very much. As like I say, apologies for the problems we had yesterday. I will try another gaming stream either during the week or next Saturday. I'm going to see if it's just the system updates. If I've made some changes, that might work. If so, we'll carry on. If it's not, though, that will have been the end of gaming streams until I get a new PC. So we'll see. I'll see what we can do. So stay tuned for that. I will, of course, be back tomorrow night for the eModels stream with me, Chris, Colin, and Ted. Don't forget, of course, my very good friend Chris over at Gross Models, who buggered off ages ago because he's at work. He has got his stream tonight at 8 p.m. on his channel Gross Models, so do go and check it out. He's working on his little Orc bomber planes, so go and check those out. I am still working on George's Sazabi, and I'm cramming it again this week. The latest X-Wing build video went up on Thursday or Friday, I think, for patrons the other day. That will then be released to everybody, for all you guys who aren't patrons, this week. So keep an eye open in the next few days. That will come out. That's up to issues 11 to 18, I think. But yeah, we'll crack on with George's thing this week. And then hopefully soon I'll be cracking on with the Bandai Millennium Falcon once that's done. So hopefully in the next few weeks. But I will be, of course, as soon as we've... with George's Sazabi, I'm doing the outlining now, which is taking a while, which is I've had no videos of it. As soon as I've done that, and I've done the mobile suit, which is all that's got left is the outlining, I'll be doing the diorama and the figure. So I will be filming that for patrons. So that will be the next episode of that. Anyway, that's going to do us. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to support this channel. Say like and subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description below the video for my Amazon store, for Goblin Gaming, free models, and for everybody else, and for Patreon and stuff like that. So do go and check them out. It's a great way to help this channel. Don't forget, of course, if you want to become a patron, you can. It's patreon.com/modelmakingGuru. If you want to help support me, you guys pay my wages, and there is more content coming. Don't panic. It's been a dearth of content for the last 6 months. That's going to change soon, so do stay tuned. I shall say thank you very much for watching. I'll give you one last...
Slap it on!
Because we've got off Ted, haven't we? We've got off Ted. Haven't had him all show. I'll put the things for... oh, yeah, don't forget, of course, in the chat now, the Model Makers Boom. If you're not a member of it already, it's a Facebook group that I set up for just awesome people. Go and join it. There's no snark. There's no bitching allowed. We don't allow any negativity or hassle in there. It's a really safe place for you to just talk about anything you want, but also to show off your work and get critical advice. You know, good. I mean, critical as in constructive criticism, not just snark. We don't allow snark. We don't allow bitching. So... there you go. Anyway, I shall stop pressing buttons because I've forgotten which ones I've pressed now. Have I pressed... I maybe just press that one. There we go. Right, anyway, that's going to do us. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to go and find out what to have for me tea. Go make something awesome like these. Go be awesome. You already are. You're already awesome. I don't know why I tell you that. You're already awesome because you watch me. And only awesome people like me. So go be awesome. Go make something awesome. And until next time, I shall say... what button am I pressing? I can't remember the buttons. Oh, God. I shall say... There's 51 of you watching right now. Wow, I've just realised that. Over 50 people. Wow, I'm impressed. Awesome. Next time, though, if you are watching, come and say hello in chat. Don't hang out and don't lurk. Come and say hello in chat. Next time, though. Too late now. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. I shall see you very soon. Adios, amoebas.